There is a German winner around this weekend, Michael Schumacher, now a quadruple world champion. Today he drives Spa-Francorchamps, his favourite, the longest and quickest circuit on the F1 calendar. The Germans won here 4 times, not in '98 though. Coulthard on the receiving end of a rare slip by the Rainmaster.
Oh, this is quite appalling. This is the worst start for a Grand Prix that I have ever seen in the whole of my life.
Spa bites.
And it's Zonta in the other VAR. Well, this is quite appalling.
There's no such thing as a small accident. In the Ardennes forests, the weather changes in the blink of an eye. Fog and rain yesterday morning, one practice session wiped out. A wet start to qualifying. Then Formula One's next potential superstar found the sweet spot on the right tyres.
Surely this will easily be pole 3.5. That gets faster.
Brilliant pole for Montoya. What's the weather going to do though? This is how it looks at the moment. It's getting cloudier and it's getting cooler, down to 15 degrees. Hello there. Welcome to the annual Spa guessing game. Don't ask me what the weather's going to do. I haven't got a clue. The only certainty is it will not stay the same. Welcome to Tony Jardine. Hi, Tony. And Mark Blundell. Now, Mark, you know this place very well indeed. You got your first World Championship point here. What chance of first F1 victory for Juan Pablo Montoya?
A big chance. I mean, that was a big day for me back then, but I think Montoya's got a big opportunity here to win his first Grand Prix in his first year, and BMW Williams looks very strong around here. But if it stays dry, if it's wet, the Rainmaster will be there, believe me.
You've been chatting to Montoya. What's his mood?
He's casual. I mean, you know, the guy's super casual, really, so laid back. Everything is in the in his stride, and today's going to be no exception.
Tony, race day at Spa, always a special one.
It's a big carnival atmosphere, really. It's a must for the fans. They all come camping here, thousands of them from all over Europe. Great vantage points. 20 Dutch at our hotel last night, left at 5 o'clock this morning. They've got a waterproof dugout down at Pujon. They wouldn't miss it for the world.
Okay, thank you, Tony. So then what drives Michael Schumacher? It's not the money. Latest estimates put his annual income at £99 million. That's around about $250,000 a day. So he's comfy. Producing the perfect season though for Ferrari, that's an unfulfilled ambition. He's going to have to help Rubens Barrichello on the way.
This season may have brought Michael Schumacher and Ferrari a lot of joy, but it's brought its fair share of fear as well. The title is in the bag. While some drivers might cruise through the last 4 races, Schumacher is still on the ragged edge. He had a 180-mile-an-hour testing accident last week, and in Friday practice, this happened. It was not dissimilar to the incident in the rain with David Coulthard 3 years ago. But then the championship was at stake. Now he's on the limit because he knows no other way to drive.
It's not that I have to push. You know, I'm a racing driver. That's a natural ability. I sit there and I want to push. And then I just enjoy myself. I keep saying that people may have a problem to believe this, but you know, it's not a 8-hour job. You go in the morning, hate doing what you do, and then you come back and see your family. It's the other way around for me. I hate when I have to go home sometimes because I want to keep driving, and that's the way I am.
I don't think he knows any other way. I mean, he's spent his whole career pushing, so I think to change your approach is he just couldn't change his approach. He just knows how to compete. He knows how to drive as fast as he can, and I think it's the best thing for him.
Schumacher identified Spa and Suzuka as the 2 races he wants to win, feeling that BMW Williams will be too powerful at Monza and Indianapolis. So finding himself 3rd behind them on the grid here was not in his game plan.
The Michelin situation looked to be in this special condition better. I mean, if we see a time gap of 2.6 seconds, I think that's much bigger than at any other time.
One intriguing development this weekend was Schumacher's admission on Thursday that he is prepared to do whatever it takes to help teammate Rubens Barrichello finish 2nd in the Drivers' Championship.
There's limits to what we allowed to do and what we can do, so we will operate to this.
It means also including letting him win if you have the possibility.
Sure.
With the championship decided, no one has anything to lose in the last 4 Grand Prix, so the racing will be fast and intense. Clearly, Schumacher plans to be right in the middle of it, as he has been throughout the year.
In the middle of it and helping Barrichello, then Michael Schumacher is quickest in morning warm-up. He could complete his century today. After first there is nothing. Well, that's according to McLaren boss Ron Dennis. Barrichello and Ralf Schumacher are both in front of Coulthard on the grid. They could overtake him in the standings today. Hakkinen starting back in 7th. He has been on pole here for the last 3 years. Montoya is there this time. Meantime, in the Constructors, Ferrari champions again, but Williams, both cars on the front row. They could get even closer to McLaren, and every point like gold dust as Sauber, British American Racing and Jordan scrabble for that 4th place. Right, let's review the qualifying hour. Nothing really happening for the first 20 minutes, and then, Tony, all about being on the right tyres at the right time.
But also about Michael Schumacher and Spa, because the 10th time he's been here, he's never had pole position, which is unbelievable. He was trying very hard to do that. And for about the longest time, about 15-20 minutes, he was out on intermediates, and he was doing, you know, 57s, then 56s, and he was the fastest guy out there. But they all knew that this track was drying. They all knew that they had to be out there in the dying seconds of this practice session, and then going on to the dry weather tyres, which Schumacher did brilliantly, but he didn't have quite enough temperature in those tyres, and he ended up in 3rd place on the grid behind the BMW Williamses.
McLaren got it wrong, but the Williams, Montoya in particular, absolutely spot on.
Montoya was fantastic. Williams' timing of the event was the greatest low for me, but they only had 2 options. The fact that they had the wet tyre or the dry tyre, the intermediate with the Michelin's not working. But Montoya sticks a lap together out the pits, which is good enough to put him up there. But the big thing for Montoya was his second lap. Second lap, heating the tyres. He knows where the track's good, bad or indifferent. Pushes a little bit more. He was 15 kilometres quicker than Ralf Schumacher at the top of Eau Rouge. That's impressive. The guy's been hanging it out, and rightly so, he sits on pole position.
And finishing 2.5 seconds clear of Michael Schumacher, and setting that time as well, Mark, after 61 minutes of the session. There's no coming back from that, is there? And Tony, the McLaren boss Ron Dennis not happy and launching an official protest yesterday. What was that about?
Well, yellow flags were out, and the car was off. I think it was Heidfeld's car down at Stavelot, and so he protested 17 of the cars for not slowing down during that period. So that meant that the stewards had to take it seriously, look at all the telemetry of the cars, see if they'd slowed down. But at 8 p.m. last night it was thrown out, and the grid stayed as it was because of the changing circumstances of the weather.
Was that sour grapes from McLaren, or were they just looking to clarify things?
I think clarity is the word there. Ron Dennis, knowing Ron Dennis as I do, he's always looking to clean up those grey areas. And if there is a grey area, and that really is one which came out yesterday, he wants to see where he can make it black and white. I don't think he got anywhere with it. It got thrown out, as you say, but he's always looking for the angle.
Right then, Tony, race 14 of F1 2001. Just talk us through the grid.
Well, Juan Pablo Montoya, superb second pole position in 3 races, and Ralf Schumacher alongside him for the second time for BMW Williams with front row of the grid. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, an incredible 4th. He said I was hesitant, but Prost forced him to go out on the dry tyres towards the end. And Villeneuve, 6th place, that's his best in 14 races. Great for him. Hakkinen out too early on the dry tyres, but Fisichella, best grid position for Benetton Renault this year. Coulthard radioed in for dry tyres. That was denied because of the yellow flags. De La Rosa out qualified Irvine again for the 4th successive race. Raikkonen and his teammate Heidfeld both had gearbox problems, and a lazy wrong tyre choice left him back there, and Button said the intermediate Michelins weren't working. Truly worst grid position for 51 races. Irvine back there, Bertie back there, and the last 4 on the grid were outside the 107% rule. Alonso, Verstappen, Marquez and Bernoldi, but they were allowed back in because of the weather changing. But it certainly was Williams' day.
I wanted to be on the safe side, since I thought I was first with the time I had, so I didn't want to risk too much. Then it turned out to be not enough pushing.
Yeah, I think the timing was perfect. I think Ralph's as well. You know, he was right behind me, so he had a slightly better track than me, but you know, I'll push a bit harder.
We didn't have enough confidence in the intermediate tires, so we decided to go with the dry tires straight away, and that paid off then for us.
You could almost see it coming, that we needed to be just out at the end on grooves, or as it turned out on the slicks. and I was having a bit of dialogue with the team, but unfortunately they didn't feel there was the time to make the change, so it was to try and make the best of a bad job, really, and we paid the price. We're 9th.
They've paid the price, the worst grid slot for David Coulthard for 3 years. Well, since the Hungarian Grand Prix, a couple of high-profile drivers have swapped team, and another change at the top at Jaguar as well.
He was a bold appointment as principal of Jaguar Racing, but now the experiment is over. Bobby Rahal has gone back to America after being deposed by Niki Lauda, who now assumes full control of the team. The flashpoint was an offer Rahal is alleged to have made to sell Eddie Irvine to Jordan. It was the final straw for Jaguar, although Lauda puts a different spin on it.
It simply came about that Bobby was doing 2 jobs, one in America and one here. And Formula One needs much more detailed work, really, in a way, because it's a lot of work, as you can see. And then we both came to an agreement that he goes back to the American side, because this is where he's coming from. And it was a friendly departure, if you want to say so.
Meanwhile, we've had the most significant driver move of the season. Jarno Trulli will leave Jordan after 2 years to go to Benetton, who become Renault next year. In exchange, Giancarlo Fisichella calls time on his 4-year career at Benetton to take Trulli's Jordan seat. Judging by the look on both drivers' faces, Jarno feels he's the winner in the deal. Giancarlo's expression reveals his true feelings.
I'm very happy about that. I think for the future is the best choice, because I got 3 years contract. I'm a little bit disappointed to leave the Benetton team, because after 4 years I was very happy to continue with them, but that's the life.
Well, I had 2 great seasons at Jordan. It was a very positive experience for me, but I think I always look for something better, and I think Benetton in the future, I hope they will get better, because they are back in Formula One to win, and they already won 2 championships with Benetton in the past.
We need to get back to where we were, able to win races and be able to compete at the very highest level, and the key to all of that is, for me anyway, continuity. And a 3-year contract with somebody as talented as Giancarlo was the key thing and the turning point of signing him.
It's been a long, drawn-out saga. Up until recently, it looked as if the 2 drivers would stay put. But behind the scenes, there's been a lot of horse trading.
I mean, the decision was made before, but I don't know why they've been waiting for so long.
Anytime you're dealing with Jordan, it's not so easy, Anything with him is difficult.
Well, initially, the agreement we understood was that a 1-year deal was never really acceptable to Jordan, and for a variety of reasons, because that contract is, Jarno's contract is jointly owned by Benetton, Renault, and of course Flavio being his manager. And when it became a 1-year deal, it became far less attractive, because not alone that, but we have a partner in Honda, and we have a lot of new things happening for next year, and of course that information would be privy to Jarno when he would eventually have to go back to join Renault.
The moves have unlocked the key to the driver market, and the other pieces will soon fall into place. Jordan would like to run Fernando Alonso alongside Fisichella next year, but they also hold an option on Jean Alesi. Minardi, meanwhile, plan to run Alex Young next year, and will give the lucky Malaysian his Formula One debut at Monza in a couple of weeks' time. Arrows may have a seat free, as Enrique Bernoldi is currently out of favour, while Prost would love to keep Luciano Berti and Heinz-Harald Frentzen next year, provided the finance allows. But one team still to confirm their drivers for next year is McLaren, although Mika Häkkinen's manager Keke Rosberg recently let the cat out of the bag by saying he's already signed Mika up to partner Coulthard for next season's campaign.
Now, Marco, Giancarlo Fisichella saying, "I'm very happy." He looked miserable there with his switch.
There wasn't a lot of fizz left in him, was there? But, I think he should be right to be unhappy. The fact that next year with Benetton was going to trigger off a $10 million deal for him, that's been taken away. But more importantly for him, the likes of Renault coming back in to take that team over, they will be strong. They're such a powerhouse. They have been winners in Formula One. He knows that's the team to be. It's going to go forward. Trulli's got the upper hand now with this switch.
Certainly, they call it the Piranha Club, don't they? And Briatore and Eddie Jordan both taking little bites out of each other there.
Well, Mark and I were talking about it earlier. I mean, Flavio Briatore almost corners the driver market controls part of it, because Trulli, Fisichella, Alonso, Webber, who's coming along, he controls that area. But what Eddie was saying there is Honda basically do not want to keep Trulli on for just that 1 year, and the rumour is that Honda are coming in with some very different technology for next year, quite a different engine, so they want to keep that to themselves.
Just a word about Jaguar. You've worked with Niki Lauda, and can he pull the team round? Because I felt that Bobby Rahal wasn't doing a bad job there.
I thought Rahal was doing a good job, but till you talk to some of the people on the inside. But the thing is, Niki is really, really prepared to learn, and he put his hand up yesterday after they messed up in qualifying and said, look, the buck stops here, which is a very good sign, but he's got a superb relationship with Irvine as well, and they're really working well together. And Irvine thinks he's going to do a super job, so do I.
Thank you. Well, the motor racing world has been paying tribute to Ken Tyrrell, who died at the age of 77 after a lengthy battle with cancer. Here's Martin Brundle, Tyrrell driver in the mid-80s.
It's a very sad time in Formula One. We've lost one of the great men of our sport, Ken Tyrrell. I'm here with Frank Williams, but first, Sir Jackie Stewart, as ever blazing across the globe somewhere, was very, very keen to say the following words.
The world of motor racing's been hit terribly by the loss of Ken Tyrrell. He was one of a kind, and there will never be the like of him again. He had the integrity of a man with enormous conviction for the truth. He trusted people and he expected people to trust him. I certainly did. I never had a contract with him after the first year that I drove with him. He was like a father to me. He brought me along as a young driver, taught me about gear ratios, taught me how to behave and what not to do more than anything else. But I was only one of many that he brought along and guided into the higher echelons of the sport. Ken Tyrrell was a remarkable man, one of a kind. There'll never be the like again. It's the passing of an era, and motor racing has suffered a tremendous loss.
Frank, you knew Ken for the best part of 4 decades. What memories have you got of him?
I first met Ken in 1964, and he was certainly the class act for a number of years in his heyday in Formula One. I think he had Jackie Stewart well under control, and he gave him some very good lessons in discipline and approach, and between them they were quite a wonderful partnership. One which I tried to emulate, totally without success for many, many years until help arrived. Ken for me was a born racer, but there's quite a few of them about, but he also knew about racing. He understood it from top to bottom. Additionally, I would say for me, he had crates and crates of bottle. He had just an endless courage, and the best memory I have of Ken is standing up to Bernie in our very argumentative Formula One team meetings, time after time. The only one of us who ever really stood up to Bernie. He was totally fearless when confronting the man, got the better of him quite often, and we all loved to see that happen because we couldn't do it.
The love of his family was first and foremost in his life. He was a very strong family man, but he was so into Formula One. As you said, he was an enthusiast, wasn't he? I mean, I spoke to him just a couple of weeks ago, and he was still absolutely on the pace. Every question he asked me was really, he understood Formula One so well.
Yes, I spoke to him perhaps not as often as you, but once a month I'd call him, and the experience for me was the same as the one you've just mentioned. He knew what questions to ask. He was truly interested right up until his end.
I think what it's all about really is we're missing Ken Tyrrell, but I think we're celebrating the life of Ken Tyrrell in Formula One.
And look out for a programme about Ken Tyrrell on the weekend of the Japanese Grand Prix. That's in the middle of next month. All of us have been shocked and saddened by the death of Brian Moore. Now Minardi have new sponsorship in Monza. As James said, they'll have a new driver, the Malaysian Alex Young. Next season they will have a new Asiatech engine as well. They staged the first Formula One two-seater race at Donington. They called the event Thunder in the Park. Nigel Mansell caused his own personal rumble. Our Louise Goodman found herself in the eye of the storm.
European Minardi team had no less than 5 two-seater Formula One cars at Donington, and the day certainly met with a roar of approval from the lucky fans who got to experience the thrill of Formula One firsthand.
Just awesome. Amazing, absolutely phenomenal.
Businessman Jonathan Frost bid $55,000 in a charity auction for his chance to ride 2 up in a Formula One car, and Frost had a very special driver, former world champion Nigel Mansell. True to form, Mansell didn't spare the horses. Unbeknownst to his passenger though, he hadn't seen anything yet. As always, the ITV Formula One pit crew were on hand to cast a watchful eye over the proceedings, but this time the job was a bit more hands-on than usual.
That was unbelievable. You know, I hope you're feeling fit, because I've just done 3 laps and I'm absolutely creamy crackered, and you've got 12 coming up.
Why?
So
Why are you
it's
tired?
physical. It's really physical. The G-forces on your neck, you know, we talk about them week in, week out on the telly, but you know, until you actually feel them, massive loads either side through the Craner curves, huge on the brakes, and once they get racing, you know, and they're trying a little bit harder and everything else, I think it's very physical indeed, Lou.
It's a rolling start and history is being made over the line. 5 two-seaters. The first Formula One two-seater race into Redgate, the first corner. Then on to the Craner curves. Tarso Marquez leads from Brazil. Now we're riding with Nigel Mansell. 2 cars ahead of him as he comes out of Coppice down the long straight. That's Jonathan Frost. He paid £30,000 to be there and he's enjoying it. But now Paul Stoddart leads in the only red car. Watch it. Nigel Mansell going through on the inside. And he takes the lead as Tarso Marquez pulls out of the race, and he's on fire. His passenger is literally having a hot seat. Last corner coming up. Alonso leads, Mansell challenging, Stoddart is in 3rd place, and it's surely going to be Alonso winning the race. Oh, look at that! Look at that! And Mansell looks perfectly all right. They were very, very lucky indeed.
They being Fernando Alonso and me in the back of his car.
Front of us just slowed right up coming out the corner.
Thankfully nobody was hurt in the accident, but in my experience the podium was a much more dangerous place. It was a day to remember in many ways. I've got this little souvenir of my Formula One experience. You've already put 1 mark on it. I'm just wondering if you want
my mark.
That's your time. Put your official one on it as well for me.
That hurt me, that picture on the podium. Bit of a surprise. He normally finds the right end of the champagne bottle, doesn't he, Louise? But you were there, Tony. Quite an eventful day by the sound of it.
I mean, she had a lump the size of an egg on the back of her head from that one. It was a real big hit, but we were very, very lucky because I sat in the driver's briefing with Nigel and Paul Stoddart, all the drivers, and you had to put on a show for the public. That's what it was about, but a controlled show. And what Fernando did, basically, with Louise in the back, he came around and realised, saw the checkered flag there, and eased off, backed off too early. Nigel, with the big prize winner in the back there, the man who paid $55,000, Jonathan Frost, right over the top. I was right there on the start-finish line with the film crews, and we feared the worst. The day had gone so beautifully, so brilliant. Look at this. Nigel had nowhere to go. And Louise said this huge black thing just came over the top of me, and everyone was fine. Paul Stoddart had Singer Kellis. They see him going off to the grass just in front of us. And he was declared the winner from the previous lap.
Well, he got a flying ride for his money, I suppose, didn't he? But old habits dying hard with Nigel, or what?
Nothing changes, Jim, does it? I mean, you know, wherever Nigel is in the cockpit of a race car, it's going to be dramatic. And somehow I don't think that plan worked, though, did it? I think it was going to be preempted that he was supposed to win that race, and it didn't go according to plan. But it all looked a little bit avoidable to me at that speed.
Yes, well, we can actually have a word with Nigel because he's paying us a flying visit here at the Belgian Grand Prix, and he's taken time out to chat to an old pal.
Is it good to be back? Yeah, it's great to be back. It's fabulous, and everyone in the pit lane. It's just, I think the astounding thing for me is, because I raced for a lot of teams over a number of years, is a lot of the engineers are spread out throughout the whole pit lane.
Yeah.
So I go to a team not expecting to know too many people, and all of a sudden
Ferrari,
there's all
Williams,
engineers. Exactly.
McLaren,
Yeah, it's
everywhere you
wonderful,
go.
wonderful.
Yeah. What other changes do you notice?
The traction control, I think, is too harsh coming out of the hairpin. I think as some drivers made it a little bit softer, they'd get out the corner even quicker. But I mean, some cars are incredibly stable coming out of that corner. And I can remember, obviously nowadays, when we're having to squirt it, back ends jumping all over the place.
Do you approve of it, traction control?
Not totally. But you know, it's the evolution of Formula One, and it'll be here for a little while, then they might put it back again. But it does make a big difference.
Now, you won here in '86 and you had umpteen second places. Opinions of it as a track?
Oh, it's a fantastic circuit. It's one of the most beautiful circuits on the calendar, especially if the weather's you know, nice and the sun's out. It's up the top section. They've got some beautiful fast gear corners, which are very high speed, good a lot of G, and you just got to technically get it right.
Well, now, Michael Schumacher, Nigel, has almost done.
Before you say anything else, he's brilliant. He's done such a brilliant job, not just as a driver, but as a human being. You know, I think Michael's a super guy, incredibly quick, and I think, you know, we've got even more to see in the coming years, and he is a superstar.
What about David Coulthard? Did you think he ever had a chance of winning a championship this year?
David had a fantastic chance at the beginning of the year. He was on a roll, he was close. Now David's been let down, unfortunately, regrettably, by some reliability problems and also getting off the line. And whoever's, you know, whatever problem that is, it's unfortunate, because then the championship it went away very quickly.
Ralph Schumacher and Montoya.
Very quick. Both of them very quick. Ralph is now matured totally. The years he's had in Formula One, he's with a great team. Patrick Head and Frank, we know what a superb team they are, and the Williams team. I mean, they'll be winners next year.
What about the old boy? Do you miss it?
I do. When I've come back here today, it's just wonderful to see, you know, so many old friends, and you know, it's 20 years of my life, Murray, and it's even longer that when you put the formative years together.
50 of mine, mate.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's actually 31 years of mine, but I didn't want to admit it, Murray.
How did you roll the Minardi at the track?
What happened? We had a totally choreographed race, and unfortunately, Alonso missed the last lap. No, I didn't actually. I think the driver in front shouldn't have been where he was, but that wasn't a problem. But when he came out the last corner and saw the checkered flag, he realised, I shouldn't have been here, and he backed right off and maybe brakes a little bit.
You were supposed to win, were you?
And no,
you were going to win,
Paul
you were going to win anyway.
No, it's all choreographed.
I said during the race, I said if Nigel Mansell's playing shove me with his children, he's got to win.
Not at all, Murray.
Nigel, it's nice to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Murray.
Honestly, Michael, it wasn't my fault. It was down to that Fernando Alonso, believe you me. Nigel Mansell here chatting to Michael Schumacher, and Nigel Mansell will be absolutely delighted about a British winner here this weekend. His name is Justin Wilson. He's a 23-year-old Yorkshireman from Sheffield, the first ever British Formula 3000 champion. He's got a problem with his height. He's 6'3" tall. He is known affectionately as the Flying Giraffe. He finished second in Spa for the 5th time. This season he has won 3 times. Congratulations, and congratulations too from girlfriend Esther.
Feels great so far, but I'm sure it'll be a while before it really sinks in. But we're working on it at the minute, trying to get an F1 test, and from there we know where to look. So we're just speaking to a few teams, seeing what the possibilities are, and just see what comes up. I knew it's going to be a long, hard task, and you know, to do it on merit rather than bringing the money is always going to be much harder. So I just hope that, you know, I can do enough to do that, be excellent, and it's what I've worked for all my life, and you know, hopefully that's what I'll be doing.
Well done, Justin Wilson. I understand Eddie Jordan will give him a test later this month. When you rejoin us, we'll be driving Spa, all 22 corners, almost 4.5 miles around, top speed 200 miles an hour, plus Martin's grid walk. 20 minutes to the start of the Grand Prix. Still dry. You are back with us at Spa-Francorchamps. The majority of the drivers enjoy racing here. They respect the traditions, the test of their skills. We've had big accidents, though, in recent years. Remember Fisichella destroying his Benetton in warm-up last year. Here's Martin Brundle with the Italian's best qualifying lap.
let's have a look at the difficult track conditions that have given us such a topsy-turvy grid for today's Grand Prix. On board with Fisichella, the lights are blaring green. We're in play down to La Source. The first corner, a right-hand hairpin. First gear just 40 miles an hour. Very, very damp on the exit and heading downhill to Eau Rouge. It's damp all around. What will Fisichella make of this? About 175 miles an hour in these conditions. A little confidence lift at the foot of the hill and over Radion. Now just following that very narrow, dry strip as accurately as he can as he makes the long haul up to Les Combes. Seems forever, doesn't it? 185 miles an hour, braking gingerly into Les Combes. Switch to the left. Stay as left as you can. Malmedy corner. Very slippery on the exit. Fisichella playing the throttle nice and smoothly. Downhill now. No braking problems. Just 60 miles an hour through this long apex. Over to the right immediately. The left sweeper. About 95 miles an hour. You build speed quite easily as you head down to Pouhon. About 130 miles an hour on the way in. Long time before he hit the throttle, but then he hit it very hard, building speed quickly towards the Fagnes chicane. Down to just 85 miles an hour. Even downshifting can be a problem in these conditions. Stay left. Be careful of that curb on the right. This time around, the white painted lines will be treacherous. You're heading towards Stavelot to join the old part of the racetrack. Again, quite gingerly applying the throttle and a long sweeping right and left-hander before Blanchimont, building up to over 190 miles an hour. The end of the lap is soon upon us. Not a hint of a lift through there. Amazing driving from Fisichella, total confidence, and now the bus stop. The cones on the left prevent you from taking too much of the curb. Sweeping through the exit is bumpy. It'll be very, very slippery this afternoon. Red lights are on. The session is over. Fisichella in the top 10.
20 years ago, Grand Prix weather forecasting was about as sophisticated as this. But times have changed. These days the teams are prepared to spend up to £20,000 a weekend on sophisticated weather forecasting facilities. After all, knowing when and where it might rain could win them the race. As we've already seen this weekend, Spa has notoriously unpredictable weather patterns, but specialist company RaceMet are able to make precise predictions from a mobile meteorological unit near the track.
The primary weather search radar is what we're looking at the moment. That's got all the video data for each circuit that we work at, and we can track the weather in from about 2 hours away if it's significant rain, and here at Spa it starts locally anyway, so we can give the team a few surprises as well and tell them there's a shower only about 2 minutes away. It pops up that quickly, but we can see it all happening as it happens and give a team the up-to-date picture of the weather as it's hitting them. Leading on from that and giving us the background information, we've got 3 satellite receivers running through the right-hand screen, and then the left one, when the radios are working from Hamburg, we can tune into all the significant weather data that is being transmitted from there. From that we can see where the weather's coming from and how intense it's going to be.
How precise can you be at Spa? Because it's notoriously difficult to predict what's happening here.
To the minute. In any given part of the circuit, to the exact minute. We can tell you what time the rain will start, how heavy the rain will be, and what time the rain will stop at any given location.
Well, the weather's always unpredictable here at Spa, and that means it's a lottery for the teams. Which way do they go on race strategy? 1 stop, 2 stops, how much fuel to put in the car? And usually there's a safety car as well. If we do get rain this afternoon, we're going to see these kind of tyres. This is an intermediate for a drying track, quite shallow as you can see, and this is a full wet tyre. These things are truly amazing. They will displace 4 of them on one car on a single lap of Spa-Francorchamps. They'll displace 12,000 litres of water. That's equivalent to filling 2 family cars full of water, or 25,000 pints of beer. Just look at them shifting that water. No wonder visibility's bad when you follow another car. Now, for most of this season, Michelin wets have been behind Bridgestone, but recently they've made a big step forward. But their intermediate tyre is still 2 seconds a lap behind the Bridgestone. So Williams would like it to either stay dry today or chuck it down. Anything in between, they could be in trouble.
Well, the forecaster's told us he can be precise to the minute. You want to know the exact forecast, so do we. No joy, I'm afraid. The teams pay big money for that sort of information. But I have just been told it is starting to drizzle on certain parts of the track. So remember last year? Mika Hakkinen, one of the greatest overtaking manoeuvres, well, certainly of last season. One or two other people said of all time.
It does rate up there with all time. Some of the great manoeuvres, I would say, of Mansell on Senna in '91 in Spain, for example. This is incredible at 200 miles per hour. Not just the bravery required, the precision required. And there was Zonta caught in the middle. Luckily, he held ground. He was like a sort of rabbit startled in the headlights. These two cars on either side of him, where the hell did they come from? And that got him the win. He'd been hunting down Michael Schumacher. Hakkinen had spun earlier in the race, but look at this. The precision and bravery is absolutely awesome. And just slipped in front of Schumacher under braking for a commit. It was brilliant.
You'd have settled for one like that, wouldn't you?
Oh, certainly. Very impressive indeed. But Zonta to me was like a London cabbie getting split by two courier riders on bikes.
Yes, I think he went a bit ashen when that happened to him. I don't think he saw either of them coming. Little bit of a problem this morning for the young Minardi driver, Fernando Alonso as well. The cameras didn't capture the accident, but that is the aftermath. A 190-mile-an-hour smash for Fernando.
Fernando, that was a nasty accident. Tell us how it happened.
Yeah, I had a problems with the front tires and the steer everywhere, and I touched the grass with the two left tires, and finished in the wall. But no problem, ready to race this afternoon.
Your car's a bit of a mess, but no damage to you.
No damage, only the leg a little bit, but nothing.
Down to Martin. Raining down there, Martin?
It is a little bit, Jim, believe it or not. Hello everybody and welcome to the grid. There's the safety car. We've sometimes seen this race started with that car. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It is there to neutralise the race. We're not expecting to see that for the start of today's Grand Prix, but you can smell it in the air. You can smell the moisture, and for sure it's spitting with rain. The team bosses and managers that I've spoken to are all saying that they're not expecting rain, but of course there's almost a little microclimate here, all of its own. Well, if you've looked at the grid, you will have noticed that there are 3 German drivers and nil English drivers, but we still win on aggregate in that case then, don't we? But the pole sitter, Montoya, doesn't want to talk today. I gave him a thank you very much, Karl-Heinz, that's much appreciated. He wants to keep concentrated, he's desperate to win his first Grand Prix. So let's see if we can find fellow front row sitter Ralf Schumacher. Is he around? Can't see him anywhere at the moment, so he's obviously off the grid. Can anybody see Ralph? I wanted to have a quick word with him, but maybe I'll come back and find him in a jiffy. So there's a very topsy-turvy grid, and in 4th place, incredibly, we have Heinz Harald Frentzen. Let's see if I can find this particular German driver. Poke around in here. Is he up to talking today? Yeah? Heinz Harald, quick word for ITV?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Congratulations, 4th place on the grid. Did you expect that before you came here?
No, actually not. It was very special circumstances yesterday in qualifying, and I have to say we are very happy with this result, but we're going to see now in a race how competitive we can be on constant conditions. It will be tough for us, that's for sure.
But you were quick in the warm-up.
Yes, we managed to improve the balance of the car since Hungary, and we have made some steps forward. So it will be better anyway since Hungary, that's for sure.
I don't know whether you noticed, but both Jordans are behind you on the grid.
Well, I didn't look that far behind, actually.
Nice one. So what weather are you expecting today?
Well, for me it's okay. It can happen everything. If it rains or not, it's good for us. If we have some action in a race, yep.
Good luck. Thanks for talking to us. Let's have a little wander around and see who else is around. If Rubino is in his car yet or hanging around, I wouldn't mind seeing Rubens. He's, well, I won't see Rubens here. This is Michael's car. Rubens is behind. Michael has done his normal TV interview. He only does one, and that's for his contract with the German TV. Rubens has had a very quiet weekend, really. We haven't seen too much of him this weekend. How long have I got left? I've got a minute left. I don't know if we can have just a quick word before he gets his earplugs in. Just a quickie before your earplugs go in, Rubino.
I was saying a rude word here. I hope you haven't got that.
No, we didn't pick it up. Okay. I promise you. I didn't hear it anyway. Everything okay? You've had a quiet but successful weekend?
Well, I think it's very successful on the point of, I was the first one to have the wets on qualify. but I'm back in 5th. Didn't have a very good warm-up, but I didn't have a good one either in Hockenheim, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah, and what weather are you expecting here at Ferrari?
It's very difficult, but as you know, it's going to rain at some time during the race. It's going to rain.
All right, somebody trying to stick something in your ear. I'll let you get on with it. Back to you in the studio, Jim.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. Don't worry, you'll sort out those Ferraris for the race. Let's get a couple of final thoughts. So we Mark Blundell first of all.
I think good opportunity for Montoya. The problem's going to be whether it's going to rain, and as anybody knows, it could happen any minute. And if that does happen, Ferrari Michael Schumacher will come to the front and go into the distance.
Tony Jardine?
Well, just going to really enjoy it. He's, savouring the Belgian Grand Prix, especially with the mixed weather conditions. Anything could happen, but I'm really going to enjoy it.
Thank you very much indeed, Tony. So there we are then, the cool Colombian Juan Pablo Montoya on pole, and Montoya out to emulate Michael Schumacher and win his first Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps. German sport needing a spot of tender, loving care today. The world champion a win away from that 52nd victory, and that would make him the most successful driver of all time. 51 apiece, Michael Schumacher and Alain Prost. We've heard from Heinz-Harald Frentzen, very relaxed indeed. Jacques Villeneuve, two jokers really in the top 6. Ferrari's Barrichello. Will Michael Schumacher, as he said, help teammate Rubens Barrichello during the race? And way back, we haven't even seen them, the McLarens, David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen, who has gone well round here. They have to rescue their weekend. We're all looking anxiously towards the sky. Rain is around the corner, and we are all primed for the Belgian Grand Prix. It's the Belgian Grand Prix, round 14 of the championship. You are back with the ITV F1 team at Spa-Francorchamps, along with Monaco, accepted as the driving test of the year, starting with a 160-mile-an-hour dash to the first corner. Let's join Martin Brundle and say a very good afternoon to Murray Walker.
What a fantastic place this is. I love it. And look, there is that 160-mile-an-hour dash down to the first corner. Last source, hairpin bend, second gear, 35 miles an hour, and let us hope and pray that there is not a gigantic pile-up after that first corner, as there was in 1998 when David Coulthard slid sideways on the track on the descent to Eau Rouge, and 13 of the 22 cars piled up. Because if there isn't, it's going to be absolutely fabulous, because as a result of yesterday's weather, where it started wet for qualifying and then dried out, we've got all sorts of people in places on the grid we don't expect to see them. He's not one of them. Michael Schumacher's third on the grid, behind the superb Juan Pablo Montoya and his brother Michael in the Williams. But you've seen Martin talking to Heinz-Harald Frentzen, fourth on the grid in the Prost. Amazing, but he's gone very well today in the warm-up, sixth fastest. Mika Hakkinen, 7th on the grid. David Coulthard, 9th on the grid. Down there in 12th position is Kimi Räikkönen, who was 3rd fastest this morning, knows this Spa circuit very well. Nick Heidfeld, his teammate in the other Sauber, who's been doing so well this season, is down in 14th place. And Jarno Trulli, who started 2nd on the grid next to Mika Hakkinen last year, is down in 16th position. So there's going to be some fantastic, we hope, carving through the field by midfield and tail enders.
This is a track where you can overtake Murray if you've got some speed through Eau Rouge and getting the slipstream on the long climb up to the Le Coum chicane. You can pass cars here, and also if you're brave into the bus stop, there's a few tears shed there usually at some point through the Grand Prix here. What they have to be careful of is that first corner. Everybody concertinas up the inside. You can go down the outside. Occasionally then you get caught up in the incident, and often we have a spinner on the exit as they're over anxious to get on the power to get down to Eau Rouge for the first time. I'm assuming with traction control we're likely to see less of that this afternoon than we would normally see here, but occasionally you can also lose the car on the way in there. The momentum starts and you don't collect it up. So it's going to be a strange afternoon, strange qualifying session. Remember, they only had 45 minutes of running yesterday morning before qualifying. That's why it's so topsy-turvy, and we have to assume, as you say, some drivers will be coming through the field. This man, Michael Schumacher, started 16th and won the race, passing 15 others, including myself, with a certain amount of ease. He was stunning that day, absolutely stunning. And I have to say, in this morning's warm-up, he looked more committed, more comfortable than any other driver did Michael Schumacher. Ralph Dent, second on the grid. He will not want to be outperformed again by Montoya this afternoon.
No, indeed he won't. And let's just make this point straight away. That BMW engine behind Montoya, sitting in the grid, concentrating there on his start, as Gilles Villeneuve did, that Jacques' father, one year. I remember at Monza, the race was stopped and restarted, and he sat in the car for 15 minutes just looking stoically ahead. Do not break the concentration. Well, it's being broken now. Off come the tyre warmers. Those tyres are too hot to put your hand on now, and they will get hotter still when they get up to race temperature. Not very much hotter, but as much grip as possible.
Great unknown this weekend for tyres. Obviously Montoya starting on used ones. They're very used by the looks of it. I think we could be back into the Michelin scenario where they're good in the beginning, fade, and then come back again once they've cleared the rolled up rubber off the top surface. But they've had so little running, so much of it has been with a drying track or in the rain, that the teams have a lot less data than they would normally like to have going into a Grand Prix.
And you can hear the engine revs rising. They rev massively high these days, and away they go for the installation lap.
Once again, the BMW Williams team sitting out most of the warm-up, saving their engines. They clearly rev them a lot less in the race than they do in qualifying, so they have less power, and that's why I think they'll not romp away from Michael Schumacher and the others this afternoon.
Now, this climb up to Eau Rouge, and they're climbing up from it now, looks quite flat on the television screen, but believe you me, when you come to walk up it, it's very steep indeed. Now they're going up to Les Combes, which is the right and left-hander at the top of the circuit. They approach that at 205 miles an hour in race conditions. Turn right, turn left, and then start dropping downhill to Rivage, the double right-hander.
Yes, I can see out of the window, I think one of the Minardis, probably Tasso Marquez, did not get off the line. Alonso, we're hearing it is. I can't, yes, Alonso not getting away initially, but of course those four drivers that failed to qualify yesterday outside the 107% rule have all been allowed to start the Grand Prix, but Alonso with problems already, and we also think that the mechanics were still on the track with 15 seconds to go, and we know from earlier in the year that will mean a penalty.
Yeah, and it was David Coulthard that suffered that penalty in the past. And the cars that failed to qualify within the 107% rule were the two Arrows and the two Minardis. But because of the exceptional circumstances due to the weather, they were rightly allowed into the race. So this is coming up to turn 14, the right-hander, where the new part of this brilliant Spa circuit joins the old one, which was just about twice as long and was discontinued because of the problems of weather sometimes being fine at one end of the track and pouring with rain at the other, as we ride with Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Prost. And I remind you that he is in fourth position on the grid. That's Michael Schumacher ahead of him, led by the two Williams BMWs as they come into the bus stop. And that is a left, right, right, left. Very, very slow indeed. Not as slow as the last source hairpin, the first corner on the circuit. And this is where Montoya will, I'm sure, start to slow down and let the rest of the grid assemble behind him so that he spends the minimum time possible on the line and thereby risk burning out his clutch. So that's Pedro de la Rosa, Olivier Panis, Kimi Raikkonen, the rest of them pouring through. Jenson Button in the Benetton. Jarno Trulli well down on the grid because he's down in 16th position. Eddie Irvine only 17th in the Jaguar. They're not expecting to do well here. This circuit doesn't suit them all that well. We're with Heinz-Harald Frentzen on the line.
Slightly difficult start. It does incline backwards, and you have to be careful not to let your car roll here. so they'll be using hand clutches, left foot gently on that brake pedal, and something around 10,500 RPM, but not yet. Not until those famous lights start to appear.
Cross your fingers and join with me. Let's hope that there's not a pile-up after turn 1.
Car stalled, it's Frentzen.
Frentzen stalled his engine, and he's got to let them... Are they going to abort the start? Yes, they've aborted the start. Charlie Whiting, the race starter, has aborted the start. Well, that's a good thing in many ways, a bad thing in others. It's a very good thing because there's always a danger if you're at the front of the grid that someone behind will arrive doing 100 miles an hour from the back of the grid to the front and pile into you. You remember when Schumacher and Bertie had that problem earlier this season. Well, race stopped, you see, but it never actually started.
Frentzen will not then start from P4. He will start from the back of the grid. I do not believe they'll refuel the cars. They will reduce the race by 1 lap. If a driver clearly demonstrates he stalled the engine before they hit the start procedure, the final part of it, then they will always abandon the start, especially if the car is near the front.
An electronics glitch question mark or a Frentzen glitch?
Who knows, but you've got to assume that he pulled for first gear and either didn't have enough revs on or the clutch was still dragging a little bit. Remember, Frentzen was always seeming to have problems with the Jordan too. It seems like he doesn't like these launch control systems much.
Terrible luck for him because he worked so hard yesterday to get into that totally exceptional 4th position on the grid. Where would I have expected him to start in the Prost? Well, to be honest, I think about 14th on the grid. This, after all, is only the 2nd race that the German has driven for the French team in after having been fired by Eddie Jordan from his team.
So we immediately go into a restart procedure here, and we'll have a look and see how many minutes they apply to that. Normally it's a 10-minute procedure, and we're understanding the restart is 9 minutes past the hour. That's 9 minutes past 2, and we'll take this opportunity for a short break.
And if all goes to plan, it is now 8 minutes past the hour here in Belgium, or presumably it's 8 minutes past the hour everywhere in the world, but it is a different hour in Belgium than it is in England, for instance. And there should be just about 45 seconds to go now before the 2nd start, or the 2nd attempt at a start, after Heinz-Harald Frentzen somehow succeeded in stalling the Ferrari, the Petronas badged, the Ferrari engine in his Prost. The Petronas, of course, is in the Sauber. And there is Montoya waving his hand as they take the tyre warmers away. Now there are 25 seconds to go officially to the attempt to get this race going.
Montoya getting a bit agitated there. I think he felt that they weren't clearing his car, and the yellow flags are waving because we think Montoya has stalled the engine. No. So Montoya then, now we know why he was getting agitated. The car has no motor running at this time. What will they do with this? He will have to start from the back of the grid. They did not hold Frentzen back. That's strange. Maybe Frentzen will go to the back of the grid, but why have they not? Normally they hold, mind you, there's no space really for the cars to go around, so they probably briefed Frentzen to go to the back of the grid, and so will Montoya. So number 1 man and number 4 man on the grid, men will have to start from the very back, and it is, as you say, Murray, on a curve. You can't even see the start lights from some of those grid positions way back there.
And Schumacher benefits. Which Schumacher? Both of them, because Ralf Schumacher is now effectively in pole position, and brother Michael in the Ferrari is now effectively in 2nd position on the grid. And I know that Michael was pretty happy about his Bridgestone tyres yesterday. He said, I'm the Bridgestone pole position man. That was Montoya, and my heart goes out to him. He's starting, or was due to start, from the 2nd time. There we are, there he's waving his hands on this replay. My engine has gone. Well, he probably wishes it had gone altogether now after the frustration of that, but it had left him temporarily.
Well, he's got enough speed to do something. I mean, it's bad for him, but it's good for us watching this race. This is going to be an interesting Grand Prix this afternoon, no doubt about it. And there then is Frentzen, who has fallen to the back. I think they didn't hold him on the grid because it's so narrow here, and especially with Montoya stalled on the grid as well. That was a smart move, so they let Frentzen go, but he's clearly been briefed, and he should know anyway. All drivers should read the regulations. He must start from the back of the grid as the penalty for holding up the start proper. And I remember many years ago, Andrea De Cesaris, and one of the reasons this came in was De Cesaris had forgotten to put his air plugs in on the start.
There's a surprise.
So switched the engine off and to make sure that nobody else started. And of course in those days there was no penalty, so that's the sort of things we used to get up to, but no longer.
Wrote off more cars than anybody else. 12 McLarens in one season. However, Montoya now joins the men at the back. It's starting to get more interesting at the back than it is at the front. I joke, of course, with the two Schumachers up front, making it a race of their own, no doubt, with Frentzen no longer behind them immediately. And of course this is now going to be a 43-lap race rather than a 44-lap race as originally planned, and that'll take about 1.5 hours, even if it does not rain.
Well, it's looking a bit sparse up there at the front end, isn't it, now? And Ralf Schumacher, now the effective pole sitter, absolutely all clear there in second place. Just his brother he'll have to keep an eye on, steaming up the inside. But we know that Williams to be very strong. And there then is Montoya right at the back of the grid.
Here we go. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it is go. Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher leads. Barrichello coming up into 3rd position behind Michael Schumacher. And they turn in, and Fisichella is well up in the Benetton. He's in 4th position as they drop down to Eau Rouge. He's got ahead of Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR. And David Coulthard from 9th position on the grid has got ahead of somebody because he's tucked up right behind Mika Häkkinen. Here they come up to Les Combes for the first time, and Michael Schumacher is right behind Ralf, and he's going to try and take him. Can he get through? Fabulous start by Michael Schumacher, who takes the lead on lap 1 of 43. He's going to take a lot of stopping now. Barrichello 3rd, Fisichella 4th, then the 2 McLarens 5th and 6th. They have made progress.
Michael definitely got in the sweet spot behind that Williams and found a great toe. You have to assume he's on lower fuel. That really was an easy pass, a lot more speed. We know that they've had to knock some revs out of that BMW engine for the race, as I spoke about earlier, but I'm surprised at just how much under pressure Ralf Schumacher is, and we'll have to see. Maybe it takes a time once again on the cold days. It's just 17 degrees out there on the track for those Michelins to come up to full operating temperature. But Williams under pressure from Ferrari. The starter of the day was Giancarlo Fisichella up to 4th. Häkkinen is now 5th, Villeneuve 6th, Coulthard 7th. They've all made 2 places, of course, with the demise of Montoya and Frentzen, and Montoya is already up to 20th place.
Now this is the interesting bit. Fisichella in 4th position. That Benetton is really showing signs of coming good here in Belgium. It's got a completely new aerodynamic pack, engine changes for the Renault, and Fisichella, if he can hold on to this 4th position ahead of the McLarens, will be doing a cracking job, and everybody is really getting the hammer down now. Schumacher leads his brother by 2 seconds.
And look at Jenson Button up into 9th place. He's just been passed on that last lap, actually, by one of the Saubers, but Button from 15th up to 8th towards the end of the first lap, and then just losing a place in the bus stop. And that is an alternative view of the fabulous Eau Rouge corner. And there then is Button. He is still in 9th behind Raikkonen.
Yeah, and it's an indication again of the fact that Benetton are getting things together, as past the arrows. That's Jos Verstappen being passed by Montoya. Montoya, who started last, and Jos Verstappen started 19th. So Montoya has already made up a couple of places as he comes up towards the Jordan behind him, and Michael Schumacher leads. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams still 2nd. Barrichello, who was pressing him, seems to have dropped back a bit in third position. Then it's Fisichella, Häkkinen, Coulthard. Villeneuve has lost a place. Kimi Räikkönen has lost a place. Jenson Button, as Martin's just told you, has gained 6 places. A storming first lap. And look, he is gaining now, is Jenson Button on Kimi Räikkönen, who is in 8th position. So that's the man to watch, Jenson Button. It's nice to be talking about him again after last year in the Williams. He's had a bad season so far for Benetton, but it looks as though it's coming good. Fingers crossed.
Both Benettons flying off the line then. I think it's Räikkönen we've really got to watch. He's the man moving in on Jacques Villeneuve. Villeneuve passed last time around by Coulthard, so 2 McLarens are 5th and 6th. Michael Schumacher then leads by 2.1 seconds at the end of the first lap. And look at this squabble.
Jarno Trulli chasing Eddie Irvine in the dark green Jaguar. And right up amongst them too is Olivier Panis coming through behind Pedro de la Rosa, who is in 10th position. Top 10, here they are. This is lap 3. Schumacher, Michael, Ralph, Barrichello, Fisichella, Häkkinen 5th, Coulthard 6th, then Villeneuve followed by Räikkönen, 9th is Button, 10th is Alesi.
And let's follow Montoya up to 16th already then, Montoya. So he's moved through 5 cars from the very back of the grid, Michael. A full 1.3 seconds faster that lap than Ralph. And this then is Häkkinen passing Fisichella for 4th place.
Yep, the McLaren goes up a place, and David Coulthard, I suspect, is going to follow him through in the 2nd McLaren, because if Mika Häkkinen can get past the young Italian, I have no doubt that David Coulthard will be able to as well.
Coulthard will have to wait, I think, until Les Combes next time around. And no, he won't, because Fisichella's made a mistake. Fisichella made a mistake through the left-hander, and Coulthard then easily making his way down the inside of Pouhon and pulling away. Villeneuve now attacking the young Italian.
Yeah, Canada chases Italy. Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR, who started 6th and has therefore lost a place, coming up behind Giancarlo Fisichella's Benetton in that position, and right behind them you can see Kimi Räikkönen in the Sauber. So Ferrari leads, Williams 2nd, Ferrari 3rd, now down up into 4th and 5th places, the 2 McLarens. Down to 6th goes Fisichella in the Benetton, and Jacques Villeneuve, the world champion of 1997, has beat.
Räikkönen's going to have a go up the outside here, and I think he will make the pass on Villeneuve. Räikkönen very, very fast through Blanchimont and under braking into the bus stop. Magnificent driving there from the young Finn as he takes away Villeneuve's 7th place.
Yeah, brilliant by Räikkönen, but let's not forget that he's in the superbly balanced Sauber as Mika Häkkinen runs wide and David Coulthard on the outside of Fisichella.
Yeah, that's a replay of Fisichella's mistake and Coulthard taking the place. And look at this little traffic jam.
Yeah, and we're on lap 5 now out of 43, remember, not 44, because we've lost a lap due to having to restart the race after Heinz-Harald Frentzen stalled his car. And you can see the McLaren getting a bit loose there as he went through Eau Rouge. Ralf Schumacher 2nd, Barrichello 3rd. Look at the gap between Barrichello and Mika Häkkinen. It is 4 seconds. Michael Schumacher, obviously the fastest so far. His fastest lap, 1 minute 50.5 in round figures.
Car getting in shape was actually Montoya. He's now up to 15th place, having passed Irvine, but really working hard through Eau Rouge. We saw from that overhead camera the Michelin's not working well at the moment. It's the Bridgestone runners that are on the move.
Yeah, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen has not done as well from the back as Montoya. Frentzen, who started last but 1, that's to say 21st, has got past Marquez and Bernoldi and is now in 19th position. Montoya, who started 22nd, has passed Alonso, Marquez, Bernoldi and Verstappen, and sorry, he's still up behind Verstappen. He's in 19th place.
Michael Schumacher 2 seconds a lap faster than any other man on the track on the last lap. I mean, that's outrageous. He had that kind of advantage in the warm-up this morning. I'm expecting all of the key players to 2-stop. I've got a bit of a question mark about the Williams, but 2-stop apparently, I'm hearing from various teams, is the optimum. But as I said, so many of these teams do not have as much data, and somebody's had a big
one there. I can't see who it is. Pile of tires, and
There's a Jaguar and a Prost, so we think it's Bertie and Eddie Irvine.
Yeah, it is Irvine.
And that Prost is a long way into those tyres. Where is
Here it is. There is Bertie in the yellow helmet. This is a replay, of course, and they touch as Eddie Irvine goes past. Bertie loses it, goes over the grass into the gravel trap in the Prost.
That is a nasty accident, Murray. I'm not looking forward to this thing connecting, because that is on the way into Blanchimont. That is 190 miles an hour. Ooh. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have to red flag this race. That is not a good... There's no good accidents. That is a bad incident there for Luciano Berti. That is top speed, spearing straight into the tyre barriers, and I'm not happy with that one.
Very, very bad news indeed, as Tarso Marquez comes out of the pit lane after a very early start. But we are all now worried about not the Jaguar down there, and hopefully Eddie Irvine is perfectly all right. But they're actually having to burrow into the tyres quite literally to get at the Prost and find out what's going on in there.
Eddie Irvine helping out there. He knows too, like we all know, that is a very serious incident. And obviously Eddie didn't realise that Bertie was alongside him. And they touched. Bertie losing his front wing, only able to go absolutely straight.
The safety car obviously is out and leading the race round as we try to establish what has happened to the charming Luciano Berti from Brazil, and he's obviously at best unconscious because there was no movement in the cockpit when we were looking down from the helicopter. A lot of agitation from the medical people there, and Professor Sid Watkins, who is the FIA's chief medical officer, will have immediately been on the scene, because he literally sits in a Mercedes-Benz with the engine running at the end of the pit lane to deal with any medical eventuality.
Problem there is, Murray, is it's an unusual place to go off, and before Blanchimont, and there's no conveyor belt on those tyres. Where the tyre barriers are really exposed, they put a conveyor belt so that you can't get buried underneath those old car tyres.
You were talking to Mark on the introduction to the programme yesterday about a place where there was only 4 rows of tyres, and that you were worried that something might happen. They're literally having to drag the car out. You say, is it there?
That's the same corner we were talking about. Yeah, it's in that zone. But that is highly unusual to crash on the way in. He's missed the end of the gravel trap, look, effectively. And the little bit of gravel he did hit just sent the car up into the air. So virtually unabated speed that he connected with that barrier. And what's worse is the car didn't ricochet out and let more energy dissipate.
Bertie on the inside of Eddie Irvine. As Eddie turns in to take his line, he had no alternative there, which removed the front wing and the barge board, and he goes unabated speed straight over the edge of the gravel trap and the hard grass and into that row of tyres, and he would have been doing, when that accident started, something like 185 miles an hour, and would not have been able to scrub any speed off. A very concerned looking Alain Prost, the team principal and owner in the Prost garage, obviously extremely worried about what is happening to his protege Luciano Berti, and I do not like the sight of that blanket screen which has been erected. The last time I can remember seeing that was when they were taking Michael Schumacher with what turned out to be a broken leg out of the Ferrari when he crashed at the British Grand Prix and lost a lot of the season before last. But anyway, the car has now been eased out of the tyre wall.
Yes, and they've neutralised the race. They have now red flagged the race, which I think is the only option here this afternoon, because that is one of the most serious accidents I've seen for a while in Formula One. It's the severity of the impact and the lack of flailing around, and the energy. That's Irvine in the background, you can see, who had a similarly big accident, but that Prost just simply stopped in a very short distance, and they're the ones that really do some damage. But I keep seeing a yellow helmet in there that looks not dissimilar to Bertie's, but that's on a corner safety worker. So Luciano Berti then, I mean, it will be no surprise if he's unconscious, Murray, anyway, because the sheer energy involved in that impact was enormous. But let's hope it's...
And looking on the bright side, as one must, I remember David Purley in the Lec car, who had Formula One car, which had a most enormous head-on, flat-out crash, and the total length of the car was reduced, and I'm not joking, to about 3 feet, and David Purley, after suffering really awful injuries, made a complete recovery. So just to summarise, the race has been stopped on lap 6 out of 43 in Belgium, after Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar and Luciano Berti in the Prost had a collision as they were exiting the 190-mile-an-hour Blanchimont corner, which resulted in Berti leaving the track at great speed and going virtually straight head-on into the Armco. For what it's worth, Michael Schumacher was leading his brother Ralph by 0.8 of a second in this what was to be 43-lap race, with Barrichello, Häkkinen, Coulthard and Fisichella completing the rest of the top 6. Ralf Schumacher talking to Michael.
Yeah, they'll be discussing the incident. Michael 5 seconds slower on that last lap. He'd lost 5 seconds of the lead. Clearly responded to the safety car boards that had been put out and the yellow flags before we went into a red flag procedure. And that procedure is all about reforming on the grid in no particular order at this stage. There is a line where they go to and wait for a restart procedure, and they seem as if they're now able to get Luciano Berti towards the ambulance.
When people say to me, what has changed most in your time in Formula One, I always say safety. And one of the dramatically improved safety situations now, of course, is that the cars all have this removable seat, a special seat which can be lifted out with the driver in it, so that you no longer have to pull and tug at the driver's arms and try to get his helmet off. All the necessary splints and things will have been put into position, and then Berti will have been lifted out of the car, and it looked to me as though he had been lifted out of the car and was being put into the ambulance on that last shot we saw. And that is Kimi Räikkönen running in, because his car was stopped, has been stopped in the loop after turn 22, and turn 22 is the bus stop. So Kimi Räikkönen, for some reason, running in as the stretcher there is carried away.
Pointless. He will not be allowed to start the race in the spare car. The race is way too old to be introducing spare cars into the equation. But what bothers me about the Luciano Berti incident is that those tyres can come into the cockpit. I remember going off in Manicourt at the hairpin once like that with a suspension failure, and at a lower speed. And the tyres tend to come up the nose and come into the cockpit, and of course to a certain extent you are exposed in that situation. So
although since the appalling accident which resulted in the loss of Ayrton Senna at the San Marino Grand Prix in 1994, the cockpit sides have been very much lifted. Here's a replay. You see Eddie Irvine trying to take his racing line as Berti is alongside him, and that was the collision.
Yeah, I don't want to see too many more replays of this one, please. Eddie Irvine also having a sizable accident, but clearly he's okay. Yeah.
Well, there we are. You can see that they are slowly making their way towards the special car there, and we can but hope that all is going to be well for Luciano long term. He had a dramatic enough season before this, because he started off with Jaguar, of course, and then lost his place in the Jaguar team and was seconded to the Prost team. You see the scene of the Luciano Berti Eddie Irvine accident on the exit to Blanchimont, and Louise Goodman is in the pits.
Yes, I'm down in the Prost area in the pit lane. A few worried faces behind you, as you can imagine. I can tell you, though, I've spoken to a member of the team, and initial reports from race control suggest that Bertie is okay. Now, there was no further report beyond that. We don't know exactly what okay is, but that's the first news that we have.
Well, it would appear that they have got the Brazilian into the ambulance now from the pictures we're looking at. Eddie Irvine still down there. And as so very often happens, I remember when James Hunt and when Ronnie Peterson crashed at Monza in 1978, the race that sadly took his life. James Hunt was very much involved in getting him in the car. Racing drivers have to exhibit powers of leadership, and it's very obvious that that is what Eddie Irvine is doing. He's getting involved, and rightly so, in finding out what is happening.
It's good to see so much of the front of that Prost intact. So now it's really, did those supposed safety tyres really come into play? And as you said, Mary, Luciano looked as if he was certainly unconscious, and but the safety cell really has stayed superbly intact there, hasn't it? I don't think Eddie Irvine has any blame at all in that incident. I don't believe he knew that Luciano Berti was coming around the outside of him, and there is a left curve before Blanchimont itself, and I think he was just taking the normal racing line. It wasn't a blocking incident. It was I think he just really hadn't quite clocked that Luciano got a run on him down the outside there. So I don't think Eddie Irvine has, in my view, any blame there. But there's a better shot of the Prost, and you can see the nose intact. So it's really just a question of, did anything ingress into the cockpit?
That Marshall incidentally is not having fun. He's not having a free ride. He needs to sit on the nose of the car, because obviously with the front wheels and the suspension removed and the engine at the back of the car, it would slide down out of the crane sling if something wasn't done to counterbalance it. And it's quite usual and traditional for marshals to do exactly what he has done. Now, of course, while we wait for the restart time to be confirmed, I can tell you that the pit lane exit has been closed, so there's no question of anybody getting on the course. We have to wait while the tyre wall is laboriously rebuilt. As you can see, there are batches of 9 tyres which are literally band-aid together. Some of them have been broken up, but normally the organisers have got spare batches in reserve so that they can be slotted in. But look, you see, he went off at the apex of the gravel there, and he went in where it's a very good thing that he didn't go in just a few yards later, because there was only one row of tyres. Craig Pollock on the left, Bernie Ecclestone on the right, Flavio Briatore in the glasses, talking about the accident and the restart, obviously, as the amber lights flash over the 5 traditional red lights which start the race.
It's a horrible time for everybody involved in Formula One when there's been a big accident and you don't know the circumstances, and there just seems to be a lack of information. It is a long way out to that corner, and it's unclear initially, and there's some uncertainty, a bit of misinformation occasionally, and it's just a very uncomfortable time.
So you can be absolutely sure that as soon as we get any information, we will tell you what happens. I'm like you, Martin. I think I've seen enough of this, but here it is again. Bertie continues across that very narrow section of the gravel trap. Look, you see about 10 yards further on, and there would not have been 3 rows of tyres there, the 9 tyre depth in all. There would have been at best 2 and probably 1, and those are the shattered remains of the Prost, and you can see what a colossal hit it took, with the radiators torn off, with the front suspension torn off both sides. That's Willie Rampf on the left, who is the Sauber designer, Jackie Eckelhardt, who is one of the race engineers. Michael Schumacher getting back into the car. I don't know why at the moment, because we still have no restart time. He's obviously checking out something inside the Ferrari, but the safety belts are being done up. Matter of interest, the driver cannot do up his own safety belt satisfactorily. The mechanics have to do it for him, because terrific tension has to be put on them to retain the driver. And that's one of the things that hopefully will have helped Luciano Berti, because he will have been, like all of them, very, very tightly strapped indeed into the Prost, with a belt over his right thigh, his left thigh, round his waist, over each shoulder. They come to a common junction and a common release mechanism. Louise, what's the news?
Well, I'm just standing in the pit lane with Nicky Lauda. Eddie Irvine has just come back in the safety car and walked through the garage to the shop, but he did have a word with Nicky on the way through. Nicky, what did he have to tell you?
He says Luciano is conscious, which is very good after this incredible impact, and now they're going to check him out in the hospital, but it looks not as bad as it did look before.
Did Eddie give you any more information about how the accident happened?
No, I mean, it was easy to see in the television. He was on the inside, and then they both collided with that high speed, and then Luciano just went off into the wall, basically.
Thanks, Nicky. That's good news then.
If, let us hope and pray that what Nicky has said is not only true but will be amplified to indicate that Luciano Berti is indeed alright, and if he is, it will be a racing miracle and yet another testimony to all the efforts that the Fédération Internationale Automobile, the governing body of motorsport, led by Englishman Max Mosley and Professor Sid Watkins and the FIA Race Safety Committee, do to make racing safer. You can never make it safe. Motor racing is a dangerous sport. It always has been, it always will be, but you can try to make it safer, and that is what they do all the time, by making the tubs of the cars stronger, by getting the drivers deeper down into the car. Look how little of Mika Häkkinen's head is showing above the safety collar there, which has already saved many drivers' lives, by putting them in the correct racing suits and fireproof overalls, by making sure that they are belted tightly in, that the crash helmets are of the correct design, that there are gravel traps around the circuit, that there is Armco barrier to stop them going into the crowd. All these things have been done and more since, in particular, Formula One began in 1950, and most particularly since the late and great Ayrton Senna was involved in that dreadful accident at the San Marino Grand Prix, being pursued by Michael Schumacher in the Benetton in 1994. And you did, at Rubens Barrichello, and that is the ambulance that will have delivered Luciano Berti to the medical centre, which is the building with the grey roof.
Magnificent facilities at every Grand Prix circuit now. Also taking a bit of a heart, I think they delivered the damaged chassis back to the Prost garage rather than to a Parc Fermé or neutral area, which also gives good indications as far as I'm concerned. But certainly that information through Louise and Eddie Irvine, Eddie was right there on the scene, so he's got as good a view as anybody of all of that, and also the fact that the other Prost is still on the grid gives me a little bit of heart.
And me, Alain Prost, the man. What a dreadful season he has had, with all sorts of financial problems. I hope they don't think that is a rebuilt tyre wall that's satisfactory. I don't. That looks to me like a bit of a Fred Carno reassembly, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Now, let us hope and assume that Luciano Berti is all right, in which case we can speculate about what is going to happen on the race restart. Will they be restarting it as a new race over the originally intended 44 laps? We had done 4 laps and we're on lap 4. That is the collar from the plastic collar which goes round the edge of the cockpit from the Prost car, which is rightly being returned to the organisers and the Prost pits to have a look at what resulted from the accident in the way of car damage, because they will be looking on this as yet another opportunity to make motor racing in general, Formula One in particular, even safer. Now I can tell you that there's going to be the race is going to be restarted. There's going to be a new formation lap, and it's going to be in just under 3 minutes time. Bernie Ecclestone consults with, or rather talks to, Ralf Schumacher and tells him what the form is. We will be back. With 4 full laps completed, there is the new grid.
This bizarre thing going on at the front of the grid. Ralf Schumacher still up on jacks. The mechanics had to get off in that 15-second period, otherwise he'll get a stop and go. But he'll start from the back of the grid. He's still on the jacks. They've got their synchronization of the procedure wrong. And there is Ralf, absolutely, I've never seen this before, stranded on his own jacks as they were preparing to put the car back down on the ground. They had to clear the grid. They got caught out by the 15-second rule. Bizarre afternoon. Let me take you through the rules. I think this is number 158 of the sporting regulations of Formula One, and the original race will be null and void, and the new distance will be the number of laps they had competed away from the total minus a further 3 laps. Any car can restart providing it got back to the start-finish line under its own steam, which Raikkonen did not do, so he cannot take the start. So this is a whole new Grand Prix. James Allen.
Well, Martin, it just shows you how easy you can take your mind off the job. It's something they've done hundreds of times before, a start procedure. But what happened was all mechanics left the grid. Even Ralf didn't realise that he was still 6 inches up in the air. And believe it or not, Ferrari mechanics were whistling and waving at them, telling them, hey, your man's still up on the jacks, he can't start. Suddenly it dawned on everybody, this awful realisation that the Williams car was stranded. Another bad mistake by the team in just a few minutes.
Martin, let me be clear about this. 4 laps had been completed, plus 3 is 7. The original race distance was 44 laps. My assumption, therefore, is that this will be a 37-lap race. Does that ring well with you?
I haven't done the mathematics, but I'll read you the clause. The length of the restarted race will be 3 laps less than the original race, less the number of classified laps completed by the leader before the signal stop was given. So I believe you're right, Murray. It'll be the original distance minus 7 laps.
So take it from us that whilst we check officially, because we are standing here in a commentary box, that our assumption is that it will be 37 laps, probably less the one. Yes, I think less the one that they are doing now. 36-lap race. So unless I'm very much mistaken, it's going to be a 36-lap race. As you look at Kimi Raikkonen's car there, he walked in, and I presume that he is not going to be allowed to start. It's a repetition, a repeat of the gearbox problem that both he and Nick Heidfeld had in qualifying yesterday, and which resulted in them, instead of starting about 6th or 7th on the grid, starting down in 12th and 14th places.
The drivers don't like restarts, Murray. They consider it the most dangerous part of Grand Prix racing, and they're never happy with restarts. So the race will be 36 laps. It is clear.
36 laps, Michael Schumacher in pole position. No Ralf Schumacher there, because he's going to be starting from the back. What a dreadful race it's turning out. There is Ralf Schumacher, sort of in the middle of the pack. Heaven knows what he's doing there. Michael Schumacher up front. There is Mika Häkkinen. He's going to be 4th. He's got a clear run. He's on the right of your picture, on the left of the grid, therefore. So here we go again for 36 laps, and it's go again. Schumacher leads, Barrichello up behind him, and Fisichella making a storming start. Incredible start.
up into second position ahead of Barrichello in the Benetton, and Montoya runs wide and is taken by about half a dozen cars.
I think Button had a stonking start again as well. We've got a damaged Sauber, now we've got a damaged Jaguar as well with a clumsy mistake by Della Rosa. But I think we've got two Benettons well up front, both McLarens slow away, and Michael Schumacher then an easy lead. Who's next? It is Fisichella. Look at Button up in fourth place, under attack from Coulthard. Coulthard takes away Button's place. Magnificent start again from those two Benettons.
Schumacher, Fisichella, Barrichello in third position, the two Ferraris first and third. Behind them is the McLaren of David Coulthard, it looks like to me. Check on that. As Michael Schumacher streaks away in the... But look at this, Benettons in second and fifth places after the season that they have had. And that is Fisichella, pursued by Rubens Barrichello, then the McLaren, and then the second McLaren. So it's David Coulthard, and touring in the Sauber of Nick Heidfeld, who started down in 12th position. As you look at Fisichella, Barrichello, then the McLaren coming through to complete the first lap in this restarted race, which is going to be 36 laps long. Race leader, Schumacher, Fisichella, Barrichello, up into the bus stop. Barrichello having a look at the back of the Benetton. Is he going to try and come through at the bus stop? No, but Fisichella chops him off, and into and out of the bus stop they go now. Through to complete the lap, and Button holds his position. Michael Schumacher is now on lap 6 because that is the situation. Remember, they had already done 4 laps, and the race order now: Schumacher, Barrichello, Ferrari, and our screens go blank. This is turning out to be a pretty trying afternoon for all sorts of people, especially Nick Heidfeld, who is out of the race. So both Saubers are missing now. Kimi Räikkönen did not restart. Nick Heidfeld is out of the race. Michael Schumacher is through, and this is the battle for second.
Yes, and there you see the two Williams towards the back of the field. That will be for about 12th and 13th place, I would guess. We've got no data up here at the moment. After their different traumas, Montoya stalling in the first race, and Ralph being jacked up and stranded for the second race. I believe also Häkkinen has passed Jenson Button. So we've got a McLaren third and fourth now. Sorry, it's going to be fourth and fifth, isn't it?
Well, I had thought I'd seen it all, but I have never seen anything like this. I've never seen a grid with a car with all 4 wheels off the ground as the rest of them leave. And here is the battle for second. Fisichella pursued by Barrichello, with Michael Schumacher out on his own in front. Then the two McLarens of Häkkinen and David Coulthard, and that is Barrichello.
It's Coulthard and Häkkinen and Montoya
out.
Will he ever win a Grand Prix? He was absolutely sensational yesterday in qualifying for yet another pole position. He just cannot get to the end of a Grand Prix.
You know, these modern engines, so highly stressed and overheated, are very, very sensitive and delicate. And of course, they've started and then started again, and then started again. They've been sitting on the line, cooling down, then heating up again, and I suspect that's what's happened to the BMW engine in Montoya's Williams.
Well, they've got an Achilles heel there as well, haven't they, on reliability? That's why they sit out the warm-ups, Murray, and keep the revs and engine mileage down as much as they can. They're clearly exposed in that area at the moment, and there's a graphic demonstration as Montoya falls out of the race. A Jaguar in the pits, that'll be Della Rosa. He clipped the front of the slowing Heidfeld at the restart. He didn't need to, he had plenty of space to get around him. So Della Rosa then in the pits. We haven't seen him leave yet, and still Barrichello can't find a way past, and looks like he's out of the race.
And that says a heck of a lot for Fisichella, and even more for Benetton and Mike Gascoigne, the Benetton technical director, and all the rest of his people who've done such a sterling job, because Fisichella is staying ahead of Rubens Barrichello in second position. Fisichella on sheer merit. He's not making it difficult for Barrichello to get past by weaving, and Barrichello having a real good look now. A terrific scrap for second, third, fourth, fifth.
Benetton, Ferrari, McLaren. Michael Schumacher is out on his own in this Belgian Grand Prix, which he has already won 5 times. He lost his win in 1994 in the Benetton. Here is a replay of the start.
And you look at the two Benettons like they're in a different gear to everybody else, and there's going to be a bit of a calamity, I think, towards the back. I think the Jaguar of De La Rosa is going to get in the middle of a 4-way fight there. Montoya got caught up in it as well, and that is why we saw so many of them dropping back. Heidfeld's car's already damaged, and I think De La Rosa will now clip Heidfeld out of view now as he passes him later on.
The old belt and braces policy, which I've operated in the past, is not working now. We rely on modern technology in the commentary box to tell us what is happening in the race. All the cars have electronic senders on them, as a result of which positions and gaps and all that sort of thing are relayed onto a television screen in front of us, which enables us to keep you in touch, and that is now completely missing. All I can tell you is that Schumacher leads, that Barrichello is having a real good look at Fisichella, corner by corner, lap by lap, to try and make it Ferrari 1-2, but the two McLarens are not actually making up any ground at all on Rubens Barrichello in front of them, and this is a circuit where you can pass. It's not like Hungary, where you can't get past anywhere. There are passing places, but you've got to be right up behind them.
Well, we saw enough passes already in the first part of this afternoon's events, didn't we? But I think the timing monitors have gone away. We're on board with Frentzen, who would have started again towards the back of the field. I think they've taken the timing monitors away at the moment, Murray. They were showing the wrong number of laps remaining in this race. They'll have to square that up after the red flag situation. I'm expecting he'll be back again with us soon. We've no idea where Frentzen is. It looks like he's having a sort of a test.
He's all out on his own.
Having a test day out there, isn't he?
Sunday afternoon run at Spa-Francorchamps, and those brown marks on the circuit, incidentally, are from the plank underneath the cars. They all have a composition plank underneath, and if it is rubbed too much and reduces the ride height of the car too much, they can be excluded, and it was for that very reason that Michael Schumacher was excluded and lost his race win in 1994 in the Benetton. So there's the good news. We've now done 4 laps of this 36-lap race, which was originally going to be 44 laps. And the leader, we don't need telling that, was Michael Schumacher. 32 laps still to go. That's a long, long way. And there's not so many cars left in this race. We're with Heinz-Harald Frentzen, trying desperately to regain the situation that he had earlier on when he was to start 4th on the grid. But as you see, there's an enormous track gap between him and whoever it is in front of him.
So just to recap, the first race was stopped after an enormous accident with Luciano Berti in the Prost. And we see the arrows of Bernoldi there defending heavily against the BAR, I suspect, of Panis, with Ralf Schumacher now coming up behind them. We have the timing screens back. That is a scrap for
6th position. Now here we are, we're on lap 9 out of 36, and Michael Schumacher, as our screens go blank again, is undoubtedly in there. I don't know why we're not seeing Schumacher. It's good to concentrate on this battle for 2nd position, and there are now 15 cars left out of the ones that started the second time. Schumacher has got a 10-second lead over the battle we keep seeing and that we're looking at now. Fisichella 2nd, Barrichello 3rd, Coulthard 4th, Hakkinen in 5th position. Jarno Trulli has worked his way up from originally way down on the grid in the Jordan, the Italian. He started 16th and he's now in 6th position. He's gained 10 places. His teammate Jean Alesi in the 2nd Jordan is 7th. And Jenson Button in the 2nd Benetton with his teammate Fisichella 2nd is now 8th. And the rest of the 10 are Jacques Villeneuve and Verstappen.
Yeah, Ralf Schumacher, the reason the screens went out again, he's 12th, he wasn't 6th, where they were showing him, Murray. So Ralf Schumacher squabbling around with Panis at the back of the field, and Verstappen But I don't know what Button's problem is, but he's certainly falling back. But Trulli's on the move. Trulli's actually catching the two McLarens at the moment. That's why you can see the yellow Jordan in the background, and Lacey a little bit further behind too. So Fisichella holding his own though, Murray.
Yeah, and if Michael Schumacher can stay there, and goodness, if there's one thing that the Ferrari tends to be, as well as the quickest car, is the most reliable. And we see now Olivier Panis battling with Jos Verstappen. Verstappen in the arrows is 10th. Behind him in the BAR, the white car, is Olivier Panis, and Jacques Villeneuve is down there as well. In fact, Jacques Villeneuve is ahead of Verstappen. Villeneuve is 9th, Verstappen is 10th. No, Verstappen's got ahead. So Verstappen is now in 9th position as Jacques Villeneuve there dives through and takes Button, and 8th position in the process.
Yeah, it was Panis, the BAR we were looking at before. Just to finish my report on Luciano Berti, we heard from Eddie Irvine, who was involved in the incident, that he appeared to be conscious. We have no further news. We'll let you know as soon as we get some. Your leader then, Michael Schumacher, 12.2 seconds ahead last time around. He's lapping still 1.5 to 2 seconds faster than any other man on the racetrack. A 49.9 that time around. 1 minute 49.9, and he's just romping away, isn't he?
Yeah, 1 minute 49.9, and the previous lap record was that of Jacques Villeneuve in 1:52.6. So, and that was in 1997 in the Williams. So Schumacher's nearly 3 seconds faster than the previous lap record.
Jarno Trulli is in the pits, just going past our window here, and this was Villeneuve shaping up to take Jenson Button into the long left-hander of Pouhon, as it's called. And unusual to see Formula One cars overtaking into there, and there then is Jarno Trulli's Jordan. So whether he picked up a puncture or what, we don't know. But Trulli, unless he was 3-stopping this afternoon, highly unlikely, I would have thought. I do not believe that was a scheduled stop.
Well, with 14 cars out of the 18 that started still running, let's try to bring you up to date with what happened to the people who have already left the race. Nick Heidfeld stopped very earlier on. You've seen Pedro de la Rosa, who has retired. Montoya has stopped with that blown engine from the look of it. He was in 16th place. He's now 5 laps down as the rest of them pull away. The top 15, 3 retirements therefore. The top 15 are still all on the same lap. Tasso Marquez is last, and Ralf Schumacher has worked his way up to 12th position. He's lapping in about 1 minute 54.5, but then so are all the cars ahead of him up to 8th position. So he's got a real battle on his hands. We're looking at him now as he closes up on Olivier Panis. You are looking at the battle now between Verstappen, Panis and Ralf Schumacher, who was on jacks and is now carving his way through the field. He's in 12th place.
He can't get through, can he? He can't get anywhere. But with Panis and Verstappen sort of at it as well, he really can't make the impression you would expect. And that's Hakkinen in for stop. Now remember, as I say remember, I need to tell you that they were not allowed to refuel during the red flag procedure. If they did, they would have to have started from the back. So this is why you're seeing stops earlier in this race. Remember, race 1, null and void, but they were not allowed to refuel while they were sitting on the grid. So this is effectively the first stops. I think maybe Trulli's was a scheduled one then. This is the first stops had we been on the full Grand Prix distance. Hope that makes sense.
That is lap 8 out of 36. And you can see the Jordan has been in, and out he goes. And meantime, Rubens Barrichello has then now come pouring into the pits and out again. That's Olivier Panis, who was with Verstappen. And it's going to take a little time for this race to settle down. Of course, all the teams will have had to dramatically revise their strategies. As you can see, Fisichella is still staying ahead of Barrichello, and it's lovely to be able to talk about a different car, a different team up front. Benetton, that did so well with Michael Schumacher in 94 and 95, are now doing jolly well in this race with Fisichella in 2nd place and Button 8th.
So we were just picking up a while back there, Ralf Schumacher attacking Verstappen. He has now passed him. Panis, of course, has pitted for his first stop of the afternoon. And Ralf Schumacher then up into what will currently be 9th place in your 50 years of commentating, Murray, this will go down as one of the more bizarre races.
It's a bit special. Now let's tell you who's been in. Hakkinen has been in. Lacey was in the yellow Jordan that we saw leaving, so he has changed his Bridgestone tyres. Jarno Trulli has been in, so has Olivier Panis, and Pedro de la Rosa, of course, has not only been in but retired as the battle continued. Look at that. Fisichella now 18 seconds rounded up to Michael Schumacher ahead of him, still in the lead on lap 9 out of 36, and you can see that it's pretty close for second, third and fourth, with just about 2 seconds covering Fisichella down to Coulthard. In the 5th position, Jacques Villeneuve, who started, and here's Ralf Schumacher replay, taking Jos Verstappen's arrows and moving up a place, and Ralf is now in 7th position.
Well, having said I very rarely see cars overtake like that. Villeneuve pulled that move 2 laps ago. Ralf Schumacher's now pulled exactly the same move. They seem to be losing speed out of the left-hander at the top of the hill, and being easy meat on the way into the long left of Rouen. But Fisichella, look, really putting a bit of fresh air between himself and the Ferrari now.
Well, David Coulthard says he's not so interested in second or third or fourth in the World Championship. He's interested in winning races. Of course he is, they all are. But he's not doing himself too much harm at the present moment if he wants to finish second, because he's ahead of one of his rivals for second place, which is Ralf Schumacher, who's in 7th position. On the other hand, he's behind another rival, which is Rubens Barrichello. The gap between Rubens Barrichello and David Coulthard in terms of World Championship points when this race began was 5 points, and they are now respectively on 4 and 3 points. So Barrichello is pulling away from Coulthard a bit for second place in the championship. We're on lap 10 out of 36. Into the pits comes the Ferrari, and James Allen is there to receive it. Barrichello.
Thank you, Murray. A very curious situation, of course, because the whole race has been messed up. Normally speaking, two-stopper, they would have come in around about lap 17. If you add together all the parade laps they've had, plus the racing laps, it's more or less about 17. There should be 50 kilos of fuel going in, around about 8 seconds. But what the people who really benefited here are the people who started out the race with a one-stop fuel load, because they'll get into the window shortly where they can fuel the thing once and keep going, and they will really have benefited. We'll find out who they are shortly.
Thanks for that, James. A good bit of strategy reading. We need all the help we can get. And here is Jacques Villeneuve in from 6th position. He was just 2.5 seconds ahead of Hakkinen, who has stopped, so therefore Hakkinen should have moved up. We'll wait and see on the track. And there is the Ferrari of race leader Michael Schumacher on his 10th lap, 20 seconds ahead of Fisichella.
And look at Barrichello there. Hakkinen did get out of the pits ahead of Barrichello, even if Hakkinen's now under pressure. So a good stop then from McLaren that time around. That has elevated Hakkinen nicely. Coulthard running up in 3rd place at the moment. He's not stopped, nor 2nd place man Fisichella. Michael Schumacher having a laugh up the front, 20 seconds ahead. Still 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap faster than anybody else. And what throws another curveball into the fuel equation that James was talking about is on the parade laps. They use so much less fuel, so that all has to be factored in, and now is the time for Michael to come in and give his car a little drink.
Yeah, with a 20-second lead, so I don't think he's certainly not going to get back in the lead. Fisichella and Coulthard, and maybe even Barrichello will go through before Michael Schumacher rejoins, but he will have been the first of the top 3 to make his pit stop. Now let's see what the situation is. Here is Michael Schumacher coming down the pit lane as the McLaren comes in.
To save your heart, Murray, I mean, he was 20 seconds ahead, and Barrichello's already stopped, as has Hakkinen. Coulthard stopping on the same lap. Fisichella did not stop that time around, so it's Fisichella that takes the lead of the Grand Prix.
And I'm trying to remember when the last time that a Benetton was leading a Grand Prix.
Was it Nürburgring, the one that Johnny Herbert won? Wasn't Fisichella in great shape of winning that and spun off?
Just testing you, and you got it right. Johnny Herbert then, and lap 11 out of 36. Fisichella, who has not stopped, leads Michael Schumacher, who has stopped, and there to prove it is the German in the Ferrari behind the Italian in the Benetton.
And if Michael Schumacher can just keep it going, he will be making history here today in Belgium by winning the Belgian Grand Prix for the 6th time, for the 5th time officially, having lost one of those victories, and to become the greatest Grand Prix driver of all time in terms of the number of victories by winning 52 races in comparison with Alain Prost's 51. But, as I always say, there's many a slip twixt cup and lip, and there's a long way to go.
Well, he wasn't short of fuel, was he, Fisichella? He's fueled the longest of anybody with the exception of Frentzen, who's way down in 10th place. So those Benettons leaping off the line like that was not a fuel situation. They've clearly got some fantastic new launch control. And now then, Fisichella takes to that extended pit lane. It's very, very long on the speed limiter here. Michael will, of course, then regain the lead. Where will Fisichella come out? Will it be ahead of Barrichello, Häkkinen? And where did Coulthard rejoin the track? We haven't been able to see yet. We haven't picked them up. It's going to be very tight between those four as to who made or lost in this current round of pit stops.
Yeah, let's remember that it's a Renault engine behind Fisichella. Renault were the first with a turbo engine and they made it work, and they were first with air valves and they made them work.
It's Coulthard going, so Coulthard's through then for Fisichella. No, he's not. Fisichella take obviously the shorter route around the inside. So Coulthard did stay out ahead of Häkkinen. Barrichello was the big loser. Fisichella maintains second position.
Terrific bit of driving, and just to complete what Renault have done, they were the first with a V10 and now everybody uses them. So I think it was a matter of time before Renault got their new, very, very special, and it's so special we don't really know what's in it, engine right, and it looks as though they're getting there now. So lap 12 out of 36 with Michael Schumacher. They've all stopped now except Heinz-Harald Frentzen, of the right drivers who are out on the circuit at the present moment. Michael Schumacher leading the Belgian Grand Prix, which was started 3 times. Fisichella second ahead of David Coulthard. There they are on the track. Behind them is Mika Häkkinen, just 2.7 seconds behind his teammate in 4th position. 5th is Rubens Barrichello, who, as Martin said, was the man who suffered. There he is. And Jarno Trulli in the Jordan is in 6th position. 28 seconds covers the top 6.
Olivier Panis has received a stop-and-go penalty for crossing the white line on the pit exit. We saw the same happen to Ralf Schumacher back at the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. So Panis then with a stop-go penalty, but that is not bothering these front runners. And Fisichella then on the Michelin shod Benetton is definitely able to hold his own up against that company. So Michael Schumacher then leads from Fisichella, David Coulthard, Häkkinen, Barrichello, Jarno Trulli makes up the top 6.
Lap 14 out of 36, and what a battle we have between Giancarlo Fisichella with Benetton to go to Jordan next year. Flavio Briatore and Pat Simmons there on the pit lane gantry, keeping their fingers and everything crossed, because this is the highest a Benetton has been this season. It is there by right. Fisichella is driving a magnificent race. Take us round with him, Martin.
So he's down towards the Pouhon corner. You tend to turn in quite early and just let the car run all the way to that curve on the outside, and a massive forces build, but the downforce squeezes the car down into the tarmac, and no problems at all. Fagna then, you must keep on the right hand side, otherwise you don't have enough space to take the left-hander. Rumble strip on the right you can use, and this is a tricky little corner, the first part of Stavolo, but doesn't his car appear to be working well? Fisichella then through the main part of Stavolo, and superb, really not having to lift at all. That's why he's able to stay ahead. And this is the kind of speed that Luciano Berti went off at, and unfortunately we cut away. I think you'd have had a bird's eye view of the energy involved. We've just missed that point now. Into the bus stop then for Fisichella. Clump those curbs. The cone stop, you're taking too much of it. The exit is easy now. You can hear the car bouncing on the sawtooth curbs. Traction control cutting in, another lap completed, and Coulthard now 0.7 of a second behind.
So Renault, who perfected the turbo engine, Renault, who perfected the air valves, Renault, Renault who did the V10. Renault who've got this magic engine which they've been working so hard on during the season in Fisichella and Button's cars, are keeping ahead of the fabled Mercedes-Benz powered McLaren of David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen, who are third and fourth. This is very, very significant what we are seeing now, and it bodes well for the 2002 season.
And well, remember in the first race, which is of course now null and void, Coulthard did pass Fisichella up into Lecumbe. When he got in the slipstream, he had a superior straight line speed. But right now, Fisichella is very strong out of La Source hairpin, and so Coulthard's not getting anywhere near him where he needs to through Eau Rouge. James Allen is not there.
James, we were hoping to hear from James, we're not doing so let's just quick reprise on what's happened in the Belgian Grand Prix so far. Well, it was due to start at 2 o'clock local time, but there was immediately a problem when Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Prost in a magnificent fourth position on the grid waved his arms to indicate that he had stalled his engine. So the attempt was made to restart the race, only for Juan Pablo Montoya in pole position to suffer the same problem. So then we did get the race going and ran on lap 5 out of what was going to be a 43-lap race. We had an appalling collision between Luciano Berti's Prost and Eddie Irvine's Jaguar. We still haven't got any official news about the condition of Luciano Berti, otherwise I would have told you. But of course the race was stopped. It's now been restarted. It's a 36-lap race, which was originally going to be a 44-lap race and then a 43-lap race. And we're now on lap 16, which is getting on for half distance. And Michael Schumacher, who started in pole position effectively after his brother Ralph had been left with his Williams on the jacks when everybody else streaked away, Michael Schumacher took the lead and looks as though he is on his way to his 5th official victory in Belgium, his 6th actual victory in Belgium. But this superb battle for 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th. And they are separated by about 4 seconds, those two battles. And the first one is something that we would never have expected to see, a battle between Giancarlo Fisichella in the Renault-powered Benetton, who is keeping at bay David Coulthard, who of course is second in the World Championship. And there is that battle.
Actually, that is Jenson Button, I think, defending from Ralf Schumacher, locking his right front into Lecumbe. Sorry, Murray, I think that is definitely a different battle there. Yeah. But Button lapping a couple of seconds slower than teammate Fisichella, so clearly I would imagine some kind of problem, or he's not happy with the handling or something, because Button really on the back foot despite that sensational start to the second part of today's Grand Prix.
Yeah, Fisichella seems to have had the best of Benetton all season. Of course, it's his 4th year with the team. He really knows everybody in the team, and that is a big, big advantage. We tend to forget that it's only Jenson Button's 2nd year of Grand Prix racing. But I remind you that out of the race now, long gone, Heidfeld, De La Rosa and Montoya. Tasso Marquez, who is 15th out of the 15 people who are still running from the 22 who originally were to start, is 1 lap adrift. The top 14 are all on the same lap. And you're watching now the Minardi being lapped. We're on lap 17 now, and David Coulthard try as he may, and there's no question of Fisichella having to come in and make a pit stop and therefore running light on fuel, because he has already done that. He's in. The McLaren and the Benetton are racing on even terms, and so are the McLaren there of Mika Häkkinen and the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello, who are 4th and 5th.
Just to remind you that Eddie Irvine, of course, retired in the first part of the Grand Prix, therefore not able to restart, as did Raikkonen and, of course, Luciano Berti.
Yeah, and David Coulthard is consolidating his 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship at the present moment, because he is ahead of both his rivals. He's in 3rd place, Rubens Barrichello is in 5th place, and Ralf Schumacher is down in 10th place, not even in the points.
An awful Belgian Grand Prix for Williams and BMW so far, after having done so brilliantly yesterday in reading the qualifying weather conditions so right and getting Montoya and Ralf Schumacher out on dry weather tyres as the circuit dried out literally with seconds to go, as a result of which they took pole and second positions on the grid, with Montoya fastest, Ralf Schumacher second. Out of the race is Montoya with a blown engine, and Ralf Schumacher, who could have been right up at the front, is down in 10th place as a result of the shambles, with him being left on the jacks when everybody got away.
Hakkinen managing to ease away a little bit then from 5th place man Barrichello, and there's Barrichello without a wing. I think he's probably been across the grass at the bus stop. That is why he's falling back, and that's 4 1/3 miles he's got to go before he can drop into the pit for a 15-second nose change. So Barrichello having a disastrous afternoon. Good news for Coulthard, second in the World Championship. Barrichello struggling, and Ralf Schumacher back in 10th place, so he will have such a terrible understeer. He'll lose a good 10 to 15 seconds.
Look for the yellow Jordan in the background, because that's Jarno Trulli. He's in 6th position. He's bound to get past Rubens Barrichello without the downforce on the Ferrari. There is the new nose and wing waiting to go on. But meantime, Barrichello is having to feel his way round the circuit with massively reduced downforce and therefore grip on the steering wheels at the front. Jarno Trulli is gaining on him hand over fist. He was 6 seconds behind him. Jarno Trulli is going to take 5th position and 2 World Championship points, and his teammate Jean Alesi, who is currently 7th, there is Trulli. Trulli has caught Rubens Barrichello, who's still running 5th, and through goes Trulli up into 5th place, 2 World Championship points. Now, where is Jean Alesi? There he is. Jean Alesi is going to move up into the points. Jordan really need this, because they are down in 6th position in the World Championship. And there is Alesi.
Barrichello can't stop, of course, can't slow down. He's got no downforce on his front tyres. It's all at the back of the car, no grip at all, so that's why he's struggling under braking everywhere. And Alesi getting a good run off at him through Stavolo. And Rubens will have to be very careful in Blanchimont, otherwise he'll just drive straight off the road, and he knows it only too well. Luckily, the front wing will already have been preset for whatever they started this race with in terms of setup. He goes straight on into the pit lane. Barrichello then falling back. That was already Villeneuve about to take him. James Allen is there.
Tremendously dramatic afternoon here at Spa once again, as Rubens comes in without a front nose. I can tell you there's been other drama as well. Michael Schumacher, how many times has he been lucky run off the course? He did it on the last lap at Stavolo and just missed the barrier. Apparently Ferrari believe there is no damage to Michael's car. Clearly there is to Rubens's car, as the new nose goes on and fuel goes in as well, and Rubens is back out in the race.
James, I must take it. Jenson Button out of the race. You can see he's gone into the wall in the Benetton and has removed his left front wheel. He was in 10th position. He's out of the race. And here is a replay of what is happening, or what happened, as Ralf Schumacher in the Williams in the background made to go through, and the wing comes off before Schumacher went through, so it was not a coming together. Jenson Button must have dislodged the wing as he went over the rumble strip.
Yeah, he took the front wing off on the left-hand curve, took too much curve on the way in, and then with the resultant understeer and the wing tucking itself underneath the front tyre, you're going to go straight to the scene of the accident with the wall so close to the racetrack. So we'll probably see that again. And now this is... That is interestingly, Barrichello losing his front wing in exactly the same way.
Now, all this is great news for Jordan as you watch Ralf Schumacher continuing to claw his way through the field. He is in 9th position at the present moment. Barrichello there is back in the race. But all this is great news for Jordan, who are aspiring to 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. Sauber, who are currently in 4th place, have already lost Nick Heidfeld. Kimi Raikkonen didn't start the race. They'll score no points. And both the Jordans of Jarno Trulli and Jean Alesi are in the points at 4th and 5th places, ahead of both the BARs. So Jordan are going to move up if they keep going.
Trulli for a scheduled stop. He was the first of the first stoppers, so it's not a surprise to see him in. And so Jarno Trulli then was in 5th position as he came into the pits. Teammate Lacey takes over that 5th position. Lap times are slowing a bit. I wonder, with all of this drama, people flying off the road, we haven't seen Michael Schumacher go off the road, but we know that he has and survived to tell the story. I wonder if it's just spitting with rain. Louise Goodman.
The latest news that we have is Luciano Berti has been taken off to hospital. No further news on his condition. Eddie actually has just walked past me, gone straight into the motorhome. I think he's actually been rather shaken by this incident. He's been in the back of the truck since the accident happened, and as I say, just gone straight into the motorhome. So no further news on Luciano Berti. As soon as we have something official, we'll come back to you.
Thank you, Louise. We're on lap 20 out of 36 in this restarted Belgian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher is stroking his way to victory. 27 seconds ahead of a battle between Giancarlo Fisichella's Benetton, which you are looking at now, the blue car, still pursued by David Coulthard in the McLaren Mercedes, who can do nothing about the Benetton Renault. The gap that separates them is 0.6 of a second. Mika Häkkinen is 4th, Lacey is 5th. Trulli is in 6th position, so both the Jordans are in the points, ahead of their Constructors' Championship rivals, BAR and Sauber. 7th is Villeneuve, 8th is Ralf Schumacher, 9th is Barrichello and 10th is Verstappen. 3 other runners still left. 11th Frentzen, 12th Panis, Berti, Bernaldi.
Replay, I think, is just going to be Coulthard getting a little bit sideways in the Fagnes chicanes, where he crashed on Friday quite heavily. Back end of his car quite loose through there, but I hope that all of the teams have radioed their drivers, certainly with Ferrari and Benetton in particular, radioed their drivers to say, give the curb on the way into the bus stop plenty of respect, otherwise we're going to see more people lose their front wing in that particular corner.
Why, Martin? It hasn't happened in the past. Low, right, high tyre curbs.
Now what's happened is that they've knocked the cones over in there, so they're taking a tighter line. Louise Goodman.
Yeah, with Juan Pablo Montoya. Juan Pablo, it's been a bit of a dramatic day for you one way or another.
Yeah, I think, it's a very difficult day for all of us, especially after Luciano's crash. And apart from that, another tough day in the office. I think we've been quite lucky. But, it was pretty interesting, pass some cars and play around with it. It was pretty interesting.
Thanks for talking.
Well, one way and another, he's had terrible luck this season. It's the 14th race of the year. It's the 10th time he's retired. He could have won at least 2 races. Don't forget, he was taken out of the Brazilian Grand Prix when he was in the lead, when he passed Jos Verstappen's arrows and it moved across and removed Montoya. He could have won at least one other race. He started from pole position. This man's day will come, but it's obviously not here. Eddie Jordan talking to either Lacey or Trulli, and we're on lap 22 with 14 of this very, very eventful Belgian Grand Prix on the finest Grand Prix circuit in the world. And more news from Louise.
Yes, and I'm pleased to say it's good news, Mario. Got the official word on Luciano Berti's condition. He has concussion, but he has no broken bones, and his condition is described as stable. As we already know, he's been taken off to hospital in Liège, but good news there about Luciano.
Good news is a masterpiece of understatement. Louise, I am absolutely amazed. That was a big accident, and I cannot start to tell you how relieved I am to hear that wonderful news. As now into the pit lane comes Jacques Villeneuve from 5th position. This is his 2nd stop, 15 laps still to go. And as usual, this concentrated action from the mechanics. Two of them clear out the side pods to make sure there's no debris in front of the radiators. Nice stop, 8 seconds. He sprints out. He was 1.2 seconds ahead of Ralf Schumacher, who will have now moved up and is in the points. Quite incredible. Ralf Schumacher, who started last after they got his car with 4 wheels off the ground onto it, and he'd stormed round and tried to catch everybody up, is now in the points out of the 13 drivers who are left. But of course he has yet to stop a second time, which is what Villeneuve has just done. As we look at David Coulthard, still looking at the gearbox of the Benetton in front of him, thinking, how can I get past? And with a gap like that, he is not going to.
Yeah, they're going to have to get the back end of that McLaren bolted down a bit more somehow, but so often this last few Grand Prix you've seen Hakkinen and Coulthard oversteering on the exit of corners, but that Benetton surely has a beautiful balance today. Fisichella really not struggling at all, and he's got a genuine pace there, so it's nip and tuck between the pyramids. Stayed at 6 or 7 tenths pretty much for 10 laps now between these two, but Coulthard really can't make a big impression on the Benetton, and that's where the Benetton is so fast. Traction out of La Source.
Gosh, it will be an enormous fillip for Benetton and for Renault and for Formula One if Fisichella can stay where he is, because what we all want to see is not one constructor, not Ferrari, not McLaren, not anybody else dominating the scene. This year we've seen Ferrari and McLaren, who've done so for so long, being caught and passed and losing races to Williams. It would be lovely if next year there's a fourth team up there as well. But have a look at the rear wing of David Coulthard's McLaren. It looks unusually oil-grimed and dirty to me. It reminds me of Damon Hill's Williams in 1996 in Australia, which was taking oil from Villeneuve's car, which was in front of him, and Villeneuve had to pull out of the race, and Damon Hill won it.
Yes, I saw Coulthard a few laps ago wiping his visor coming past the pit straight very dramatically, as much to say to the team, there's oil coming our way, but it won't affect the performance of his car in any way, shape or form, but it won't help him see through his visor. I think I can see the Benetton mechanics out in the pit lane, which must only be for Giancarlo Fisichella, because Jenson Button is in the wall and out of the race. So will Fisichella pit at the end of this lap? Michael Schumacher's 29 seconds ahead now, and he's backed his pace off. So Michael with such a big lead, and having had that scare that we've heard about by going off at Stavolo. And where does he go? He does indeed go into the pit lane.
Yeah, Giancarlo Fisichella in, David Coulthard not in, so he will move up into second place. And of course this will be the signal for Coulthard to get the hammer down now that he's got Fisichella out of his way, and try to build up a gap before he has to come in the hope that when he comes out after his stop he will be in front of Fisichella. Time will tell.
Yeah, and he's only got to find 6 or 7 tenths, has Coulthard, on an in or an out lap or during the pit stop. And who was that in the background? Hakkinen in for a stop too. So Coulthard, we know, was fueled, it looked like 3 or 4 laps longer on the first stint, looking at the data here. So Coulthard, we know, can go a little, well, we assume can go a little bit further yet. We don't know how much fuel they put in Coulthard's car at the first stop. Certainly leapfrogged him past the Ferrari of Barrichello, and Hakkinen comes out alongside Ralf Schumacher,
who passes him and gets ahead of the McLaren. That is not going to help Mika at all, but Ralf Schumacher moves up a place. This race is really coming alive. We're on lap 24 out of 36. The crowd and the weather, incidentally, which I had expected to, and Mika Hakkinen does to Ralf Schumacher what he did to his brother last year, except that Ricardo Zonta is not there this time.
Just shows you how many revs they've knocked out of that BMW engine. It's twice this afternoon. The fastest car in a straight line easily in qualifying has just been breezed past by a Ferrari first, then a McLaren. So they've really kicked that BMW engine to make sure it can get to the end of the race. Ralf clearly short shifting there, losing an enormous amount of straight line speed.
And we're on lap 25 with Michael Schumacher, who we have seen hardly anything of in this race, because he is, it's a demonstration race as far as he's concerned, and as I say that, we see him on the screen just to establish that the brilliant 4 times a world champion German is on his way to his 52nd Grand Prix, as in comes David Coulthard. Now, when he rejoins, where is Fisichella going to be? But now, James, over to you.
It's going to be very, very marginal indeed. Coulthard needed a good in-lap. He's only been 1 lap since Fisichella made his stop. This has got to be pretty crisp as well from McLaren. 7 seconds they're looking for in a perfect world. Try and nip it slightly slow off the fuel hose, but he should do it, Murray.
Fisichella was 8.4, Coulthard 7.2. Look, 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 there is Fisichella, and he passes the pit lane exit before, just marginally before David Coulthard. They are in exactly the
the same positions as they were before the pit stop. And that will be heartbreaking for David Coulthard, who tried so hard when Fisichella had gone into the pits to go faster and be able to get ahead. He has failed.
We don't think they changed the tyres on Fisichella's car at the pit stop. We're not absolutely sure. We haven't. They did not change the tyres on Fisichella's car at the pit stop. So quite clearly, he liked the balance of it so much, and the wear rate clearly not that high around here. So on this shortened race, so Fisichella then just fueled up. And can Coulthard do anything about it on this stint, the final stint of the Grand Prix?
Bit of a gamble for Fisichella, who is on Michelin tyres, of course. And here is Michael Schumacher coming in for his stop with a lead of 37 seconds. So he can refuel, change all four wheels, take his helmet off, have a smoke and a cup of tea, put him on back again and rejoin in the lead. A massive, massive lead. And a very slick stop from Ferrari. 7.7 seconds, which is 0.7 of a second faster than the quick one we have just seen. And Michael Schumacher tours out of the pits. He's still going to be in the lead. He has not lost it. And this is his 26th lap. 10 laps coming up at the end of this one for the conclusion of the Belgian Grand Prix, with the positions for second and third still unchanged. And David Coulthard having a real go now. Of course, he's on fresh tyres and Fisichella isn't, and this could make all the difference.
David having a bit of a fake look down the inside there. Now let's see if Fisichella's still got a traction advantage. Of course, he's always going to be, he has indeed, hasn't he? But he's always going to be on the throttle one car length earlier. But the Benetton Renault definitely clawing its way out of the slow corners in a very effective manner. Not dissimilar to the way they both left the start line on both the starts this afternoon. But this is where Coulthard passed him in the first race. And he's not close enough this time around, but that's where it's going to happen if it happens.
And that's where Hakkinen passed Schumacher last year with that incredible passing manoeuvre when Schumacher went to the left of Ricardo Zonta and Hakkinen went to the right, and Mika Hakkinen came out in front and won the race. First and second were Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher, who's got this quite incredible record here in Belgium. Second last year, first in 92, first in 94, only to be excluded. First in 95, 96 and 97. Is he going to be first in 2001? Well, David Coulthard, as I said, if he finishes second or third, is going to increase the gap between himself and the third place man in the Drivers' Championship, who is Rubens Barrichello, who is still ahead, of course, of Ralf Schumacher. Race order on lap 26, 36 lap race. Michael Schumacher leads, Fisichella and Coulthard, that you can see there, battling for second place, ahead of Mika Hakkinen fourth and Ralf Schumacher, separated by 8 seconds. Jarno Trulli is in sixth place, his teammate Jorna Lacey, and then look at this.
Look how close Coulthard is this time around, but not quite close enough. Updated information from the pit lane. They just changed the rears on Fisichella's car, apparently, and not the front. So 2 new rears. Leaving the fronts, they do look, there's hardly any grooves left in his front tyres, but Coulthard looking more menacing this time around.
Yeah, obviously it's a balance question, because they could have put on new fronts in the time that it took on to put on new rears.
Yeah, it's not a pit stop saving issue. It's the tyres quite clearly work better. I mean, it's a slick. He's got slick front tyres on effectively, which is sort of squeezing the very extreme edge of the envelope of the regulations there. But look at Fisichella's left front. It is virtually bald. No grooves in that one.
They're coming up to lap Verstappen. They've already lapped, as has Michael Schumacher, of course, Enrico Bernoldi, who is 13th out of the 14 runners, and Olivier Panis, who is 12th. Now they're coming up to Jos Verstappen, who is in 11th place in the Arrows. And here we're looking back at the replay of Mika Hakkinen going into the bus stop, getting it cross-threaded, going over the grass, easing off just to keep the front wing clear of the ground, regaining race pace. And of course he was 16 seconds ahead of Jarno Trulli. So although he's lost time, it won't have affected his position. And now
Fisichella and Coulthard can see Verstappen's lapped or about to be lapped arrows getting closer and closer. It's crucial now for Fisichella that he gets past at the right moment and hopefully before David Coulthard can do so, but it won't happen on this lap.
And look how dirty Coulthard's car is from, it must be, clearly having followed him so long, from the Benetton of Fisichella. A lot of engine oil, and can Fisichella get to the end of this motor race from a reliability point of view? Certainly from a performance point of view, doesn't have too much of a problem at the moment. But without doubt, in this third sector of the race, it's Coulthard with the faster car, and David, that looks a touch of a squeeze.
And they both go through inside the arrows. They shall not pass the Maginot Line policy from Giancarlo Fisichella in the French engined with the Renault Benetton, and he stays ahead of David Coulthard. What a wonderful season David Coulthard has had. He's had 3 retirements, but he's done so well in all the others.
Coulthard's got a good run through Eau Rouge this time around, and can he sweep around the outside? Indeed he can. Beautiful move from David Coulthard. Somehow or other Fisichella wrong-footed in Eau Rouge. We saw him with a big advantage into Eau Rouge, but somehow he lost it in the middle. Coulthard getting a good slingshot and making it stick around the outside. Now I believe with that faster car, Coulthard will begin to pull away in a clear second place.
So can he do something about Michael Schumacher's lead? Not enough, of course, because Michael Schumacher is half a minute up the road now. He's 30 seconds ahead of David Coulthard's second-placed McLaren as the Scotsman comes up to lap Tasso Marquez. Here's a replay.
Yeah, and he had the extra straight line speed, and when you're up the inside, it's dirtier, it's bumpier. You know you have to brake early, and so does the guy trying to pass you around the outside. He's got the clean line and the confidence, and well, David put a lot of trust into Fisichella there, that he wouldn't just lock a wheel and slide straight into the side of him too. But I think Fisichella's an old enough hand now that you would put your safety of your chassis in his hands.
Yeah, 88 Grand Prix for Giancarlo Fisichella, and he's a very equable, level-headed chap. He wasn't going to do anything silly. And David Coulthard is now really pulling away from the Benetton. But if Fisichella can finish in a podium position, that is to say in third place, it would be the first time this year that a Benetton has been there.
Lap 30 in this 36-lap race in Belgium, and look at this battle for 6th position, the vital World Championship point. Jean Alesi, the French-Sicilian veteran in the Jordan, is staving off Barrichello. Behind Barrichello, trying to take him now as they come up to Les Combes, is Ralf Schumacher, who started last and has fought his way up to 7th. Can he make it 6th? Can he make it 5th?
I suspect Ralf Schumacher's been told to rev the engine harder now. He's not going to score any points anyway if he blows up, and he's not going to score points unless he passes at least one of those cars in front of him. So suddenly Ralf Schumacher with more straight line speed now, and Jean Alesi grimly hanging on to try to score an important World Championship point for the Jordan team. His teammate Jarno Trulli 3.7 seconds up the road in 5th place. So Michael Schumacher 30 seconds ahead of Coulthard, who's pulled away 4 seconds from Fisichella. Hakkinen trailing 8 seconds further down from Fisichella. Trulli, Alesi, and this squabble you're looking at now.
Yeah, there's no battle for first, second or third places with 6 laps to go, including the one they are on. And I don't think Mika Hakkinen can catch Fisichella, but my goodness, there's going to be a battle for 5th, 6th and 7th, because Jarno Trulli in 5th position in the Jordan. Oh no, he's well clear of Jean Alesi. I say there's going to be a colossal scrap. There is a colossal scrap. You're looking at it for the last World Championship point for 6th place. And if Jean Alesi can get it in only his 2nd drive for Jordan, having scored twice already for the Prost team previously, he will be elated.
he's famous for taking off his helmet and throwing it into the crowd. Helmets don't cost all that much, but they're full of extremely expensive radio equipment, and I don't think Jordan would have been expecting him to be in a position to do it. Let's hope for their sake that he changes his mind this time if he finishes in the points. If he does, it will be a magnificent achievement. He's the most experienced Grand Prix driver of them all this year. It is his 198th Grand Prix, and Jean Alesi at Les Combes on lap 31 out of 36 leads Barrichello, who is 7th, leads Ralf Schumacher, who is 8th, and behind them is Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR.
Well, they've all stopped twice, as anticipated. Alesi had a relatively travel-free run. Of course, Barrichello had to stop for a new nose. Ralf Schumacher started at the back of the restarted race after being left stranded on the jacks. The mechanics not quite getting the car down in time and having to get off the grid. So Jean Alesi then grimly trying to hang on still as he heads towards the final chicane. He appears to have enough speed, given that Barrichello is in his dirty air, and you just see truly was moving out of the foreground of your screen as they came into this chicane.
Yeah, and it appears to me that Jacques Villeneuve has pulled the bung out. It looks to me visually as though he's closing marginally on Ralf Schumacher in 8th place ahead of him to make it hopefully a 4-car train battle for that 6th position. Michael Schumacher, race leader, as he has led all the way. Once again, the luck has been with him, because when he started this race, Juan Pablo Montoya, the pole position holder in the Williams, had to go to the back, and his brother Ralph was still up on the jack. So good fortune has once again come Michael Schumacher's way, but as ever he has exploited it superbly. His lead has dropped to 26 seconds, but that is a colossal advantage with only 4 laps to go at the end of this one. And David Coulthard therefore is closing up on him. In fact, on the previous lap he was about 2.5 seconds faster, but I'm sure that's because Michael Schumacher, experienced as he is pacing himself.
Barrichello in a very good position there. Jean Alesi necessarily having to defend his line, and well, I really thought Jean would just spear forwards there and be the last of the late breakers. Didn't do so. Probably didn't defend as aggressively as I expected Alesi to be, given that it's for the final point of the afternoon. No point finishing 7th in any Grand Prix, especially this one. So Barrichello moves into an all-important point-scoring position.
Yeah, so Jean, look at the gap he's built in just a few hundred yards, as Ralf Schumacher now decides he's going to have a go. Here's the replay up to Les Combes. From behind his rear wing and slipstream, out of the dirty air goes Rubens Barrichello, moves across. Jean Alesi has to give way and defer, which gives Ralf Schumacher the opportunity to move up a bit in 8th position, and Jacques Villeneuve is 2 seconds behind this battle you're looking at now, but 2 seconds is a long way in terms of track distance. This is lap 33. We've still therefore got laps 34, and bang, out goes the Jordan of Jarno Trulli. That means to say that Alesi is back in the points again, and Rubens Barrichello moves up another place. Another heartbreaking end of race situation for Eddie Jordan's team.
Yeah, poor old Eddie Jordan, poor the Jordan team. They don't deserve that. They really don't. They've just had Alesi moved out of a point scoring position just as Trulli blows up. They were on for 3 points, and all of a sudden they're on, well, of course Alesi moves back a point, back into 6th now with the demise of his teammate. So suddenly they're down to just 1 point, and Alesi under severe pressure from Ralf Schumacher as well. So maybe still Jordan could go home without any World Championship points, and that is not what they deserve.
No, they need this 1 point from Jean Alesi to have the same number as BAR, their Honda engined rivals in the Constructors' Championship, which have put them in 5th place. And yet again, poor Jarno Trulli is out of the race. That's the 6th time he's retired this year, and you can see banging his head on his arms in sheer frustration as Michael Schumacher exits the bus stop to conclude his 33rd lap. So he's got about 13 or 14 miles to go now for the 5th victory. I thought for a moment that Barrichello had slowed up a bit there as he came out of the corner on his way up to the bus stop.
But still, Ralph Schumacher is pursuing Jean Alesi, and now it's for a World Championship point. If Ralph can get ahead of the Jordan, it will be to move up into 6th place, and as Martin has pointed out, he might as well go for broke. If he blows the BMW engine up, he's lost nothing. If it stays together, unlike that of his teammate Pablo Montoya, he will get a World Championship point. Now, Schumacher was alleged to have said something rather disparaging about Montoya when the Colombian blew his engine up leading the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, which the telemetry disproved. But the fact remains that again it's been Montoya's engine that's gone, and so far Ralf Schumacher's has not. Michael Schumacher is now on lap 34 out of 36. There's his lead. And Coulthard has stretched the gap between himself and Fisichella, who he just passed, to 10 seconds. Fisichella 10 seconds ahead of Häkkinen. The first 4 places looking established, as is 5th for Barrichello, who has speeded up and is marginally catching Mika Häkkinen. But what a scrap for that last championship point.
Now, how many revs will Ralf Schumacher be using down the straight? Surely he's in the absolute ideal position to give it a little bit extra, and no, he's not close enough. So but this time around on the managing to stay on the outside, Alesi could take that better line into Lecombe chicane and retains position. 3 laps remaining, of course.
Same sort of situation that Mika Häkkinen had with Michael Schumacher last year, because having spun, the Finn in the McLaren Mercedes started catching Michael Schumacher. He tried to get past him at Lecombe at 1 point, only to virtually have his nose chopped off by the Ferrari as Michael Schumacher established his racing line. But it was on the very next lap that Mika Häkkinen did that incredible move which took him past Zonta to lap him and Schumacher Michael to take the lead. Lap 35 for Michael Schumacher now. Just this one and the next one between him, and yet another 10 World Championship points to take him over the century, to give him 104 World Championship points. He's breaking record after record. If he wins this race, he's going to beat Prost's all-time record.
Ralph's got a chance into the bus stop. He's clearly in the zone here. But how late is Alesi on the brakes? Later than we saw when Barrichello passed him, that's for sure. So Jean now fighting harder than ever to score a World Championship point. I think when Jean sees a replay of Barrichello passing him, he'll be annoyed with himself for not fighting a little bit harder on that one. But now he's giving it absolutely all he's got.
Well, with Michael Schumacher on his 35th lap, people before this race began were saying, will Michael Schumacher let Barrichello win the race and therefore strengthen his position to be second in the Drivers' Championship by passing David Coulthard? Well, first of all, to do that, of course, he's got to be in a position with Barrichello right behind him. That's not the case. Now Schumacher's having a go again. Now can he get inside? And Alesi once again turns across the front of the Williams BMW. He is absolutely determined that he is going to have that 6th position on the World Championship point that goes with it, and not Ralf Schumacher. But Ralf Schumacher will know what the score is. He will know that on the next lap he's got to be that much closer to Alesi than he was on this one, and Alesi will know the same thing. You can bet that Alesi is spending nearly as much time looking in his mirrors as he is looking ahead of him. And Michael Schumacher is now on his last potentially victorious lap of the 2001 Belgian Grand Prix. He's got 772 World Championship points already. It will be 782. He will only be 16 points behind, 16 and a half points behind Alain Prost's all-time point scoring record if Schumacher wins here. I say we haven't seen much of him, but he's had another great drive, and his brother's doing the same thing.
That's exactly where Bertie and Eddie Irvine got together, but Ralph then just backing out of that scenario. Alesi is 11 years older than the man pursuing him. He's going to be feeling extremely tired. It's been a long and difficult afternoon, and but he's using all of those 11 years of experience to keep that 6th position at the moment, and Ralph seemed very slow in the bus stop, but very, very good under braking.
And here we are on the last lap. Michael Schumacher exiting turn 13 in this 22 corner, 4.4 mile Spa-Francorchamps circuit. A brilliant driver's circuit, and it suits him. He is a brilliant driver. Not very far now to go to give him the all-time record in terms of World Championship wins. 52 victories. Alain Prost has been saying, I hope he does it soon. I'm getting sick of people talking to me about whether he's going to do it. Well, he is going to do it. Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari is coming up to win his 8th race of the season. And his most ever is 9 with Nigel Mansell, and he does it. Michael Schumacher wins and becomes the most successful Grand Prix driver of all time as David Coulthard slides the McLaren through the bus stop to finish in 2nd place.
Michael Schumacher, clearly the driver of the day. He kept his head through all of that, waltzed peerlessly off into the distance. Very, very strong drive from Coulthard as well. A well-deserved 6 points and a well-deserved podium place for this man, Fisichella. He's finishing 17 seconds down on Coulthard on the end, faded towards the end, but Häkkinen with a moderately lackluster for him, especially afternoon, down in 4th place, 36 seconds off the lead. But Michael Schumacher was just swanning around at the end. He gave 6 seconds away in the last lap alone, did Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, there's Barrichello finishing 5th, but who's going to be 6th? Is it going to be Jean Alesi? Is it going to be Ralph Schumacher? Let's go back down the track and find out. And there is the answer. It's going to be Jean Alesi. Jean Alesi in his 2nd race for Jordan retrieves something for the team with a quite superlative fighting drive to 6th position and a single World Championship point. But mostly unseen by us, and of course the heartbroken Jarno Trulli, this has been Michael Schumacher's day. And he quietly contemplates things. I don't think the numbers mean all that much to him. Herbie Blash says, well done, Michael. I would be surprised if we see any euphoric jumps for joy from Michael Schumacher on the podium at this race. It's been a pretty tense one and a pretty fraught one for all of us after that appalling accident to Luciano Berti. And let us hope the news we had from Louise Goodman that he seems to be all right is indeed true. But a wonderful day for Benetton too. And Ralph Schumacher, well, I was going to say, doesn't seem to be too happy. He's pretty elated about something. I think it was the fighting drive he had with Jean Alesi, who has actually got back with his helmet intact on his head and not disappearing into the crowd. So confirmation, a wonderful win which makes him the most successful Grand Prix driver of all time, to the man in red, the Red Baron, Michael Schumacher from Kerpen in Germany. David Coulthard has consolidated his 2nd place in the Drivers' World Championship with 3 races still to go. And a superb podium 3rd place for Fisichella and for Benetton, the day after it's announced that he will be moving to Jordan next year. Mika Häkkinen makes it 2 McLarens in the top 4, and Rubens Barrichello makes it 2 Ferraris in the top 5. A point for Jean Alesi and Jordan means that the Jordan team are now tying with BAR for the 5th place in the Constructors' Championship, 4 points behind Sauber. And no change in the top 3 of the Drivers' Championship, of course. And Rubens Barrichello, the gap between him and David Coulthard has been extended, with Ralph Schumacher still in 4th place ahead of Mika Häkkinen and Montoya in 6th position. Look at that.
That's a replay, I would guess, of Jarno Trulli blowing up a few laps before the end of the Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher, clear visor today, dull day overhead, but no problems at all.
I have to say, Martin, that
Honda have not got it right this year against Mercedes-Benz, against Ferrari, against BMW, but more of that later perhaps as the victorious trio mount the steps to the podium, where shortly we will be seeing them. Another race victory for Bridgestone tyres, another second place for them, a fine third for Michelin with Giancarlo Fisichella. Ferrari, of course, are even further ahead in the Constructors' Championship, which they've already won than they were before. Williams are still third to McLaren, and Sauber are still fourth, but only 4 points now ahead of BAR and Jordan. There's all to play for as far as they are concerned in the 3 remaining races of the year at the most charismatic circuit of them all, Monza in Italy in 2 weeks' time. Then the newest of the lot at Indianapolis 2 weeks after that, and the fabulous Suzuka circuit in Japan in the middle of October. But you're looking now at the man we saw very little of in the race because he was so far ahead. Difficult for him to maintain concentration?
Well, it would appear so. We hear from the pits that he did go off the track. We didn't see it on our pictures, that's for sure, but at that point Michael was still pushing like crazy, building his lead more and more, and since that incident he's really backed off and cruised home, but ended up just 10 seconds clear of David Coulthard in the end. 8
wins for Michael this season. The most any driver has ever had in one season is 9, and that was Nigel Mansell, who's here incidentally in his victorious year for the World Championship in 1992, and Michael Schumacher himself when he was with the Benetton team. There's 3 races left, and if Michael wins 2 of them, it looks as though there's little to stop him. He will add yet another record to his incredible record.
Michael, we saw in that slow-mo replay, still with his rip-off on his visor. He didn't follow anything all day, did he really? Blitzed past a few back markers, but absolutely clear car and helmet and visor for the winner Schumacher.
You have heard it before and you will hear it again, the Italian national anthem for the prancing horse team of Maranello, Ferrari. Believe it or not, there have been protests from politically correct killjoys about Michael Schumacher conducting the national anthem in front of the Ferrari joyous team. So he responsibly stands with his hands clasped in front of him. But now he can lift
the trophy, the 52nd winner's trophy that Michael Schumacher has done that with in his quite amazing career of 158 Grand Prix. He has won 1/3 of them. An amazing record, which is about to make him not only the most successful driver in terms of victories, but very shortly the most successful driver in terms of championship points. He has been one of the architects for Ferrari's return to the top, and he richly deserves all the success he has had. But isn't it nice to see Benetton back there?
Absolutely, it's great for the sport, great for Benetton and Renault. Eddie Jordan won't be too disappointed either. Of course, Fisichella is going to Jordan next year, and he's looking a bit of a star today, no doubt about that. But the champagne is flowing, and I think that's probably extra good news too.
But the best news of all, subject to official confirmation, is the news that we understand that Luciano Berti was not badly hurt in that appalling accident. A wonderful day for Schumacher and for Ferrari.
Thanks very much indeed to Murray. Thanks to Martin Brundle as well. Just to underline what Murray's saying there, we've officially been told Luciano Berti is in hospital in Liège, about half an hour from here. He has concussion, no broken bones though. His condition described as stable, and I wouldn't think that champagne would have been sprayed up there by the Spa master Michael Schumacher if Luciano Berti hadn't been okay. We're going to hear from the top three in the press conference. We have the views as well of Tony Jardine and Mark Blundell. We'll be right back. And you're back with us in Belgium, where Michael Schumacher has won the Grand Prix here this afternoon, but the race was stopped after just 5 laps after a dramatic and frightening looking accident involving the young Brazilian Luciano Berti. Let's get the latest reaction from the managing director now of his Prost team.
Joanne, a horrible moment for the team there. What's the latest news that you've heard on Luciano?
Okay, we know that he left the circuit. He was conscious and I was talking because some of the members of the team was there with him. The doctor said that they have nothing broke, but obviously have a big shine in the face. He was a bit bruised and he's been taken to the Rio Hospital.
He was a very lucky boy, because that was a horrendous accident, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, Natalia looks very impressive. Lucky enough, there was a lot of rubber down there, and hopefully absorb a little bit the shine.
Mark, you've come through an accident like that. What were your first impressions when you saw it?
Very similar. The big issue with my one and that one is there was 4 rows of tyres for Luciano and there was concrete for me. But the problem he has now is that there's a little bit of a psychological edge. He's got to walk over that, the next hurdle, and also the after effects. Even in my accident 3 days later I had a bruise in the brain, and sometimes those things don't come out until a few days down the road.
Do you fault him in any way in this accident?
I did have a little word with Mark about perhaps it was slightly naive to try the overtaking there and a rookie's error, just looking at it from my perspective, and also makes me think back to Germany, obviously where he was unsighted, but here we are going down the inside. He's got 2 wheels on the grass there. Eddie's coming in to take his normal line, so it's not a particularly clever thing to do, I hate to say, and of course he loses his front wing and loses any steerage, and the front right suspension is already broken as well, because he saw the wheel waving about. But Germany, after the crash as well, Mark, as we were saying, he had 2 further accidents as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just an unusual place to try and overtake. He would have been well served to just wait till after the corner and go for the bus stop, but there you go, you know, that's racing.
It was the fastest corner of the track where he crashed. Blanchimont, what is it, 190 miles an hour there, and just looking at the Prost getting taken away, it's a real pat on the back for the strength and the safety measures in these cars these days.
Yeah, it's a testament to the strength of the cars. FIA set regulations, these designers and technology people for the teams keep striving to make them stronger and stronger, and they're doing a good job, but nobody likes to see that kind of impact. Whenever you see that, it's a bit of a lump in the throat.
Just a little thought for you here about this circuit, which we've said hasn't actually been compromised in any way particularly. Do you think people will look at that now, Tony, and say we've got to do something about this, it's just too quick, too dangerous?
There've been mutterings during practice. Runoff areas not big enough, not long enough. We're going to have to start behind the pace car if it's wet. That came from Coulthard, it came from Irvine. But the point is they all actually love coming here, and I think if you sat them all down, so we go back to Spa next year, they go, yes please, because it is probably the ultimate challenge in Grand Prix racing, and you can't overly change a traditional track like this.
Okay, let's just confirm the result for you then here at Spa-Francorchamps this afternoon. 10 out of 10 again for Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard up there on the podium. Fisichella's first podium. Hakkinen fourth. Rubens Barrichello looking to make up ground on Coulthard for that second place overall in fifth place, and Jean Alesi making his point for Jordan. Let's go to the press conference, shall we, and hear from the top three, from Fisichella, from Coulthard, and from Michael Schumacher.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Michael Schumacher, now the outright holder of the outright number of wins, 52 Grand Prix wins, winning here this afternoon at Spa. David Coulthard second, and Giancarlo Fisichella third overall.
Thank you.
Michael, you made amazing starts both times, but it must be said that Williams rather helped themselves to the back of the grid.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's unfortunate for my brother, obviously. When you say I made an amazing start, I don't think that's true. I think the guy next to me made an amazing start. I don't know which position he came from, but he almost took me. So on that side, we made average starts, and I was able to just defend my position, and thanks to whatever problem Williams had, I didn't have to fight against them, because you saw the first start, they just pull away and I had no chance. And I think even on the second start, if Ralph on the second position, he would have just beat me into the first corner. We didn't need to find out, and I had a clear race from that moment on, and obviously delighted.
Now, thousands and thousands of fans across the border from Kerpen, your hometown, and from Germany, they kept you company during the race, but as you said, it really was, you were out on your own. How easy was it to keep your concentration and control?
I mean, I was pushing flat out until, I'd say, the second pit stop. Then I eased off. For whatever reason, I thought I had the chance to open up the gap for an extra pit stop, and we didn't know what would the weather do. So I just wanted to have that safety, and because obviously I was faster than Giancarlo and David couldn't get by, I was able to open up such a lead. That helped. I lost once the concentration going wide in turn 15. I was just playing with too many buttons at the same time, and then running wide and almost gone into the barrier. It didn't need much to do that, but when you fight on the limit, when you drive, then that's what can happen.
Thank you very much, Michael. David, second place. Before you came here to Spa, would you have ever predicted you'd have spent so much of the race looking at the rear wing of a Benetton?
Absolutely not. No, Giancarlo was doing an amazing race. Obviously, his car was working better than it has done this season, and he was quick in all the right areas. So out of La Source and out of Stavolo, so it was very difficult to get close. And I knew that my opportunity might come at the pit stop, and I thought I lost it when I caught one of the Minardis in Blanchimont. And I said to the team as I came down the radio, I think it's going to be close. Obviously, he came out in front of me, and then thankfully with the back marker at La Source, it just upset his rhythm a little bit, and I got the run through Eau Rouge, and thankfully was able to outbrake him. So, you know, given the weekend I've had, then obviously very happy to get second place, and you know, just hoping obviously that Luciano is 100% and able to do the next race, and then we can all feel it's been a positive weekend.
David, looking at your car during the pit stops, it was absolutely covered with oil. Was that from your car or from someone ahead of you?
I was saying to Giancarlo that I've never been behind such a messy car. I was having to wipe my visor every single straight, and I was out of rip-offs very quickly. And I understand that it just made it across the line, so I think it was spitting all its oil out as the race went on. So it's obviously a lot quicker, but a little bit close to the limit probably.
Thank you very much, David. Giancarlo, first time you've been in one of these conferences since Brazil last year. Can you put your finger on what has happened to your car to make it so much faster?
Obviously there was the new aerodynamics package here, and the car was much more competitive, easier to drive, easier to make a good setup, even much more grip than normal. During the race there was a very good balance, especially after a few laps, because at the beginning there was a lot on the steering, but then there was a good balance. We just missed a few Ks in the straight compared to other people, but maybe in Monza there is one more step on power, and we are very optimistic for the next one.
Now, you had a very unusual tyre tactic at your second stop, and you only changed the tyres at one end of the car. Can you explain why, and was it your choice?
Yeah, it was my choice. There was a problem starting with the new tyres, graining. There was a graining, and it was better to keep the same tyres. In fact, I did the race, completed at the end of the race. I went at the end of the race with the same set of tyres, just on the front, but new on the rear. Was the right choice. We did a very good job. I did 2 amazing starts, especially the second one from the 6th position. I went to 2nd, and I'm happy. It's a great day, and I would like to say thank you to the team.
Thank you very much, Giancarlo. Michael, back to you. Next race, Italian Grand Prix. You've already got the championship. It's going to be quite a party at Monza.
Yeah, you can imagine. On the other side, we still want to do well, which is going to be maybe a little bit more difficult for us, looking at the characteristic of the circuits. From Hockenheim, we know Williams is very competitive there. So we have to work very hard, and we have to find out what we can actually do against this strong package of what they have. But we certainly will try, as we have tried here. But anyway, we have good reasons to celebrate down there.
Indeed you do. Michael, thank you.
Michael Schumacher wanting even more at Monza in a couple of weeks' time, and their confirmation 52 victories for the 4 times German world champion, 1 more than Prost, Senna, Mansell, Sir Jackie Stewart, Jim Clark and Niki Lauda in that very exclusive club. Never any danger today, Tony?
I think it's fabulous for Michael Schumacher. It's his 10th anniversary of his debut here in '91 for Jordan. The following year, when he was teammate to our own Martin Brundle, had his first victory here, and now he's joined the great Ayrton Senna and the great Jim Clark on 5-time winner at Spa-Francorchamps, a circuit that, you know, he loves so much, so close to his heart, so close to his home, and the fans who all came here to pay homage to him have gone away rewarded.
Driver to driver, any chinks in that Schumacher armour? I can't see any.
I don't think so. I mean, now and again he does lose concentration, but we've seen that before in world champions like Senna at Monte Carlo. But when you've got nothing to do, you know, when it's so easy, it's going to happen. But I think we need to extend the track, for him at least.
Right, we have plenty more incidents to look at. We're going to chat to 1 or 2 of the key characters as well when you rejoin us in Spa Seated. Back with us at Spa, Michael Schumacher has cantered away to victory in the Belgian Grand Prix. Now, Mark, it started off with 2 Williams on the front row of the grid. We expected great things, possibly Montoya's first Formula 1 victory. What an afternoon they had, though.
Terrible, really. I mean, Monty's dream got crumbled very early on. Their hands up in the air, engine stalled. We don't know whether that's because the initiation of him putting in first gear or something software-wise. But a hard blow for him and a hard blow for the team. Everything that he did yesterday wasted. At the same point, there's the issue there with Ralf Schumacher up on the jack still.
How can that happen?
I've never seen that before in Grand Prix racing, and in fact I don't think I've ever seen it in racing full stop, and a bad issue, you know, for Williams' team. I mean, they should not make mistakes like that at all.
And here's Montoya blowing up at the end, and well, Martin Brundle asking 1 or 2 questions about the reliability of the BMW engine.
Well, we saw early in the warm-up that they weren't doing many laps, so you know, a discussion already came up actually between me and Martin that we thought the engines weren't going to be reliable, and definitely for Monty we were proving right, weren't we?
Start of the show, if you were with us, we saw Giancarlo Fisichella almost putting a brave face, wasn't he, on his return to Jordan. I think he's genuinely very happy now, isn't he, after that, after getting up on the podium.
But how happy are Benetton letting him go? The team love him. Alan Permain, his engineer, has been with him from the start. He's been at Benetton, worked very closely. They've helped develop that car together, along with Mike Gascoigne and his team, and made these improvements, which started in Hungary with this, you know, this sort of high downforce aerodynamic packages working. But this lightning start, just incredible. Button as well coming through, only being foiled at the last minute by Hacken going in front of him, Barrichello getting overtaken, and Fisichella up to 2nd place, whilst De La Rosa gets sandwiched there in between Heidfeld and poor old Montoya taking a knock as well at the start. And that's when we saw, look, De La Rosa out of control and actually hitting Heidfeld as they went down the hill. Look again, look at Fisichella's start, absolutely lightning clear. Clearly huge improvements to that Renault engine, 110 degree V, revolutionary. They've taken big gambles this year, and there's the squeeze you saw in the sandwich. Della Rosa getting it at the hit from Heidfeld.
David Coulthard's worst qualifying position for 3 years, Mark. He spent a lot of the time in this race looking at Fisichella from behind and finally got past him for the second place.
He drove a solid race, DC. You know, the move was a good move as well. Outstanding when he went around the outside there into the chicane. Was having a difficult time, obviously, because that engine there from the Renault pushing out a lot of its oil, so that's not an easy thing when you're a race driver. When you lose those visor tear-offs, eventually you've got to use your glove and your visor gets smeared and it does become tough. But he drove well and solid and a good performance and, you know, a few more points in the bag.
5th place for Rubens Barrichello. That's a couple of points. I get the feeling, though, he expected more, and perhaps Michael Schumacher was primed here to support him as he tries to get second place in the overall championship.
We're pretty sure the team expected much more from Rubens. He lost it on the last day, and in fact, even after the warm-up, he said he'd lost the balance of the car and he was trying to get it back. But he also lost it in after the first round of pit stops, because after the restart, he'd been in 3rd place. And then he dropped all the way back, and hence he had to take that fight. And this is the point where he lost his nose cone, and we think that he took too much curb. We didn't see detailed pictures and lost his nose cone, which meant he had to come in for a new one.
We're going to hear now from Rubens Barrichello, big pal of Luciano Berti, fellow Brazilian. Here he is with James.
Rubens, it's a difficult day for you. You lost the front wing. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was such a difficult day. The second start was crap, and I lost the position up to Fisichella, and then I didn't have the straight line speed to overtake him. Then the pit stop didn't go well. My race was lost. I mean, afterwards, I had a vibration on the tire. I had a bit of everything today, really. So I lost the wing. I lost everything.
But the good news is your friend and fellow countryman Luciano Berti seems to be okay.
Oh, that's good news, because I've been thinking on the race.
Get the impression he was a bit worried about Luciano there, Tony. Get the impression he wasn't that chuffed about his second start either.
No, not at all. CRAP, I believe.
Yes, speaking from the heart there, but I think he probably still has got time, hasn't he, to put the pressure on David Coulthard, although Coulthard's second place has done him no harm at all today. What about the safety aspects of this place? Tony, you think that shouldn't be changed? Mika Häkkinen, former world champion, I get the feeling he's going to disagree with you as he chats now to James.
Mika, tell us about your afternoon.
How was it, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, not so fantastic. I mean, my personal performance on the race, I'm happy about it. Sad about what has happened today. You know, a lot of negative in terms of accidents and things like that. So terrible weekend. And you're looking at those corners over there. It's a very high-speed corner, so things like that, if you go off there, it is catastrophic.
Not happy with those high-speed corners, Tony?
No, he's not. But, I mean, you know, it is the ultimate challenge. And you talk to people like Villeneuve, and he say, this is the ultimate challenge. We don't want to lose it. And if you've got to start behind a pace car here, he says, you may as well not bother turning up.
Okay, let's hear from Jean Alesi. Terrific battle at the end he had there with Ralphie Schumacher before scoring a point for Jordan.
Jean, congratulations, 1 World Championship point, and boy, you had to work for it.
It was fantastic because obviously the beginning of the race was a big emotion for us drivers, I mean both of us, because when we have a red flag because there is this kind of accident, honestly it's very hard to start again. I don't know actually the condition of Burti yet, but I hope he's okay.
And he is okay. Here's the constructors then. Ferrari away and gone. McLaren holding that second place ahead of Williams and Sauber. 4 points clear of British American Racing and Honda, and they are level, both 5th and 6th. BAR and Jordan both on 16 points. Be sure to join us a little bit later on tonight for the highlights of the Belgian Grand Prix as we look back at a pretty dramatic race we've had here, or races I should probably say. Highlights coming your way later on tonight here on ITV. And there we are, just after midnight, repeated ITV2, just before 1 o'clock tomorrow. There we are then. We salute Michael Schumacher, statistically the greatest ever. Our thoughts, though, are with Luciano Berti. He's okay. We're going to call him Lucky Luciano from now. Bye-bye. And you're back with us in Belgium, where we've seen another triumph for Michael Schumacher, the Spa master. Coulthard doing very well to recover from his qualifying setback. First podium since Canada last year for Jordan-bound Fisichella. Hakkinen fourth. Barrichello just picking up a couple. Alesi's late battle with Ralf Schumacher earning Jordan a point, but they all earn their money in Belgium.
Another very strong drive from a not terribly promising grid slot.
Yeah, obviously I'm very happy with the team giving me a reliable car. I benefited a lot, obviously, from people dropping out on the grid. But it's obviously helped other people earlier in the year when I dropped out, so that's probably the payback. And I had to work very hard, actually, to get past the Benetton. I was surprised, but they were quick.
Tell me about the race. Was it fun or was it just plain hard work?
It was a little bit hard, but because there was a good balance, it was okay. David was pushing behind me, and in the straight it was very quick, but then at the end I was struggling a little bit with the grip because I did the whole race with the same set of tires, and it was a bit difficult, but it was the right choice.
The actual accident, is that one of those ones that you're going to be replaying over and over in your mind?
No, I just seen it there for the first time, and that corner, it's, unless you're clearly ahead, it's not really the place to overtake. And it's just one of the things. Let's just trying to get up there, and I'm trying to keep him back because I was going very long. So I knew I was going to be struggling at the start of the race, but hopefully it would come good. But that's the problem. You're always fighting like hell the first 10 laps, trying to hold the two stoppers back. So it has its risks, but it can give rewards sometimes.
You're off to see him tonight, I understand.
Yeah, I'll go and see how the boy is.
So then it's a ton up for Michael Schumacher. Decent day for David Coulthard. 9 points ahead of Rubens Barrichello and 13 clear of Ralf Schumacher. No improvement for Montoya. In the constructors, Ferrari, of course, the world champions, and Williams not making up any ground at all on McLaren. Sauber, though, 4 points clear of British American Racing and Jordan. Both have 16. Tony Jardine, the one big talking point of this race, not Michael Schumacher, but that accident.
Dreadful accident. Former teammate of Eddie Irvine's, hence his concern, everybody's concern. But at the moment, from the best guesses we've got, the guy is stable in hospital. But a bit of a rookie's mistake as far as I'm concerned, going on the inside there before Blanchimont, 180 miles per hour. He puts two wheels on the grass, loses the front wing, loses steering. His right front suspension is broken before he goes in front 3/4 on through those layers of tyres, and somehow survived a horrific accident. And look at the damage to the Prost there, but it survived. The survival cell is intact. Luciano Berti is intact, and that's good news.
And it is a big tick for the safety standards that we see these days on those cars. The Prost, the nose looked okay.
Rigid structural tests before a car can be passed for Grand Prix racing, side impact tests, frontal impact tests, tests over the top of the roll hoop, all proving its worth now, showing how safe and strong a Grand Prix car can be.
Decent day for Benetton, wasn't it, and particularly at the restarts.
Fabulous day for Benetton. All the work that Mike Gascoigne has put in, Pat Simmons, look at that, rocketing through on the restart. Giancarlo Fisichella leaving Hakkinen for dead. They're getting past Barrichello up into second place, and in fact Button getting up really well, only being held back by Coulthard on the inside. Meanwhile, back behind there, Montoya's had to start from the back along with his teammate, gets the squeeze from the inside from Heidfeld, and you just see, look at the power of the Benetton, look at the Renault V10 3-litre engine there, this radical engine powering all the way up to the back of Michael Schumacher, only stopping at the last minute there, and Button joining in. And then you see the squeeze there on Pedro de la Rosa, Heidfeld on the inside, and actually pushing Montoya out to the outside as well.
We knew that they were going to come good towards the end of the season. Indeed, they have. David Coulthard, though, he's spent a lot of time staring at Giancarlo Fisichella and just finally got by him.
But this is it, because he'd been at La Source, they got round Benaldi there, but David Coulthard's visor and his rear were covered in oil from that Renault engine or the Renault gearbox, and then finally, and you can see David couldn't really see too well through that smear right across his visor. Very brave manoeuvre, 200 miles per hour round the outside at Les Combes, which Hakkinen, of course, did last year in a rather different way to Schumacher when they went past Zonta.
And if there hadn't been enough action in the race already, right at the end, Jean Alesi, the old veteran, held off Ralf Schumacher brilliantly.
This is normally a lucky circuit for Jordan. They did the double, their first race win here in '98 with Damon Hill and Ralf Schumacher. And Ralf Schumacher there, desperate to try and get a point, having started from the back. Jean Alesi, 37 years old, he's finished every race this season. This is why he's been hired till the end of the season by Eddie Jordan. He gets the car home. He's prepared to fight. For me, the tiger of the race, Jean Alesi, the veteran.
And Michael Schumacher, top of the tree.
He goes along now with Jim Clark and Ayrton Senna having won Spa 5 times, 52 Grand Prix wins. This is where he made his debut in 1991 in the Jordan, having told a few porcupines. He told Eddie Jordan that he'd been to this circuit many, many times. He'd actually only been on a bicycle before then, and that was the start of this glittering Grand Prix career. His debut win was here. He gets a hug from Giancarlo Fisichella, up on the podium there with Coulthard, Fisichella, and of course Ross Brawn, the technical director and winning constructor for Ferrari. So a fabulous day for Ferrari.
Thanks so much indeed, Tony. And of course Michael Schumacher's birthplace, Kirpen, just around the corner over the German border. In a couple of weeks' time, Monza will feel like home for Michael Schumacher, and we will be there for the full ITV service throughout the weekend. The qualifying live from 11:30 on the Saturday, pre-race show just after midday on Sunday, highlights at 11:45, repeated on ITV2 just before 1 o'clock. So then we salute Michael Schumacher, statistically the greatest of all time, and we wish Luciano Berti a speedy and a complete recovery. Good night from Spa.